And there we go. And we're going.
I should grab.
Yeah, you should.
Where'd the headphones go? I don't know, but I'll do without them for the time.
This is the Slouch. Welcome back.
Yep.
I'm Jdox. I'm here with DJ Static. Is this mic high enough for you? Speak into it.
I mean, I can't hear it because I don't have headphones.
Get some headphones.
Where are they?
I don't know. Don't you have your own headphones? For like listening to music and
probably
such?
Should have brought them.
Yeah. I don't
know. Last time they were just kind of here.
They gotta be somewhere. Oh, here's a bunch.
Yeah, that'll do. That'll do, pig. That'll do.
Yep. That is that high quality professionalism that only DJ Jdox can offer you on this fine radio station. You're listening to the Power 92.3 WKVR. I'm Jdox. I'm here with Static, and we are once again doing the Slouch. Our apparently it is a long form discussion type radio show between the two of us, late on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
But we didn't think we'd be reaching many people out here with it being the middle of the night on a Tuesday in rural Pennsylvania. But we did get one lovely listener.
We have at least one listener. Yeah, we got a.
Not gonna say a name. Big K.
No, we will not.
But we'll just call you K, because that's the first letter. Anyway, no, I don't know. We don't say our own names on here.
Yeah,
I gotta respect privacy. I mean, that was like a handwritten letter. It's a very nice handwritten letter.
I couldn't read it, but you could.
We read all through of it. The cursive was a little difficult, so in the future, don't trouble yourself with cursive because, I mean, did you learn cursive, Static? Back in like third grade?
Elementary school.
Yeah. Do you ever use it?
No.
Yeah.
Well, when I have to sign things, but that's... that stopped being cursive so long ago.
You don't just like sign something with like a scribble?
I was going to say, it's more of like a controlled seizure that begins with the first letter of my name.
Exactly. I know exactly what you mean.
And just sort of generally resembles the shape of the word.
It's just a really quick, really stylized like writing of your name, at least in my case. That's what I do.
That basically, yeah.
Yeah. But I do it I do in essentially just like normal script, not cursive anyway, so. All right, cool.
I was not.
Well, we're not going to say anything else bad about the letter because there's nothing else bad to say aside from the cursive. It was very nice. Like
our show,
keeping along, addressing all of our points. It was, and I'm looking at it right now. Here, listen to it rustle. It was 6 pages, handwritten on notebook paper. Like, man, dude, I won't be able to keep up with us, like talking, like trying to write stuff down. That's crazy.
Well, I like the point where he just straight up said, "I'm trying to keep up, but I'm going to stop now."
He had some nice bullet points. Anyway, and we are gonna like look up your weird YouTube stuff. We didn't get around to doing that this week, but we'll do that
eventually, one day.
We'll hook it up and we'll broadcast it through the through the broadcast.
Maybe.
No, we won't do that to you. That'd be okay. I'm actually gonna put the music on now because that was like part of our. I was gonna say
maybe my headphones are busted. I'm not hearing any music.
Here we go. That's nice.
That is nice.
I want to so I'm still working off of the Slouch playlist that I made that was all like dream pop and shoegaze or shoegaze is how I like to pronounce it. So this is Can You See It's Bloom by
it's like Trancy Elegant.
Ricky Eat Acid off of the Boring Ecstasy, the bedroom pop of Orchid type tapes. It's a big compilation thing.
Really hippie tier music right here.
This one is actually a little bit of a haunted carnival. I wasn't expecting that.
A haunted carnival.
Yeah. It's like a reverse carnival. Listen.
A reverse. This sounds like
it's a reverse carnival.
Have you ever played Majora's Mask, Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask?
No, I haven't. That's been on my list for so long. I should get like the 3D version on the DS.
You should, and then I will steal it from you because that's my favorite game of all time. And I don't want to pay $30 to play it.
All I know is that it's like crazy existential.
Oh my god, yeah. It's super existential. It's like all about loss and death and grieving. And there's some interesting internet theories about it too you can look up where it's like, oh, it's all symbolic of death.
I love me a good video game creepypasta.
And it's kind of not, because like the theory's like, oh, Link is dead and this is all the afterlife, and that's no.
Probably.
The creators have, I think, somewhere outright said that's wrong. But if you buy into that whole death of the author stuff, it's valid. Even still, if you don't, it's an interesting read just because some people analyze really intensely, like they analyze these things so intensely, and you can't help but admire that. And just it really some of it's just blows you away.
Deep analysis stuff for like children's video games. I am all about that.
But I love that game. But regardless, what this reminds me of is the Song of Healing from that game in reverse, which you may or may not have heard.
It's the Song of Damaging.
No. You don't. It's not actually played in the game. It was there's a song in the game called the Song of Healing. You play it on the ocarina in the game, and it's also a like actual song in the soundtrack. And the reason I say it sounds like the Song of Healing in reverse is because there's a creepypasta, which we did talk a little bit about.
If you don't know what a creepypasta is, it is a play on words of a copy-pasta, which is like a copy-pasted story across message boards. You just copy and paste it. But it is a creepy copy-pasta. It is a creepypasta.
We talked a little bit about it last time, where it's like a ghost story for the internet age.
Yeah.
But there was a very notorious creepypasta about Majora's Mask that actually included like videos of a modded version of Majora's Mask, and the song playing in those videos was the Song of Healing in reverse, which was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
But yeah, wonderful game, and you should play it because
I absolutely will.
There's a lot to talk about with that game, but I don't want to go on and on forever about it.
Because I think I started playing an so we're digging real deep into Majora's Mask here. So if this is your first time listening to the Slouch, this is the second episode, so you're not like super far behind that you got anything to catch up on. But this is where I'm Jdox, me and my good friend Static here. We're gonna just sit and talk, have some very ambient music in the background, and talk about all kinds of either nerd stuff or social issues based on how the last one went. If you're a returning viewer, then you're probably one person, Mr. K. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But I want to do that because I had an emulator
listening to the stream.
I can't imagine, because like it's not, I guess, publicly listed yet.
Oh, really?
I'm working on that to get on the directory of Shoutcast, but that's the sort of thing that someone's not going to just like stumble upon. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
This is the stream that like you have to link people to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I don't know if someone can manage to find it. I mean, good on you. It must be very confusing. We must be a total enigma to you. But I got an emulator a while ago for N64 on my computer, and I was playing a little Majora's Mask, but it was impossible to figure out on computer controls, and that's whatever.
If you have a controller for your computer,
I sure don't.
Because I have like a wireless Xbox controller that I like jury-rigged to my computer.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of mapped that. It's still a little awkward with some things, but I sort of like awkwardly mapped that, and it makes it a lot better. Because then you can have like dead zones and like analog input. Because like
oh my god,
I know some people will go on and on about like PC Master Race and mouse and keyboard, and like trust me, I game on my PC all the time. I get what they're talking about. Like when you're playing a first-person shooter, nothing beats a mouse and keyboard. But
because you can like with that mouse, you can whip right around.
Yeah, exactly.
Immediately.
But some things there's no beating like the analog input of the controller. There really isn't. And there is no one superior control input method for all of gaming forever.
For instance, I got on Steam Super Time Force, which is a fascinating game.
I love that game.
We could talk. Okay. But it's a very interesting side-scrolling shoot 'em up with some time-controlling elements. But working on it with keyboard controls is a nightmare. Yeah, you need a controller for that. Anyway, but like for Majora's Mask or something, I would totally want to play that on 3DS. Yeah, that's totally my scene.
You should get it for 3DS.
I should.
I know they sell it at the local Walmart.
That stuff costs like $35.
It's ridiculous. You get so used to paying like dirt cheap.
I know.
Like nothing for games, and then you're like $30.
Oh, you want to talk about
this?
Dude, I was literally even $10 for like a PC game seems like a lot to me because have you heard of Undertale?
Oh my god, yes.
Let's talk about Undertale real quick.
Looking at the game, I'm like, oh, this game looks really, really cool. And then
it looks
$13
beautifully. It's $10 anyway. But Undertale is a PC game available on Steam from an indie developer.
We're not paid to shill for this.
But I will shill for free. it's like a JRPG, very much in the way that like the old Earthbound games were. It's like even a very similar
I was gonna say the
narrative and aesthetic
very
style.
Earthbound.
Very Earthbound.
I think the only thing that isn't Earthbound is like how you can be completely pacifist.
The crux of the game is exactly that: is that you can play through it and you have like encounters with enemies and you do some turn-based combat, but it's not combat in the sense like because you have the capability
you can act and you can mercy.
Yeah, you have the capability of like
pet the dog or like joke about
enacting zero violence onto your opponents in this game. And in a lot of cases you like befriend them apparently by like talking to them and helping them with their stuff. And they're monsters, like they're skeletons and like crazy beasts and whatever.
I didn't believe in skeletons. I was told there's one inside of me.
Yeah, me too. Oh, dude, on my please cancel me, I was just like coughed real bad. I'm like, oh, the skeleton's trying to get out. It's Halloween season. But
that's wonderful.
Callbacks. But it looks just super good. And from what I've seen, it's like really well written and like a very like really well storytelling sort of narrative thing, and then also just really funny with little quips and jokes and whatnot. I don't know.
It's always good when a game has not just a good story or narrative, but a not always necessarily unique, but a distinct way of marrying that narrative to like gameplay.
Yeah,
because that's like only something games can do.
Yeah, and I've been like really interested recently in non-violent video games.
Really?
Yeah, which is like a pretty rare sort of thing, because any sort of like adventure action type thing is going to be related to being violent in some way.
Violence is kind of an easy, here is your conflict, here is how you solve it.
And it's a really easy way to solve a problem is with violence.
It's also very
in these
easy
narratives
to make a kind of reward system around that. Or, like a leveling system or something like that. I mean, I love character action games, for example. Like Metal Gear Rising was a very ridiculous fun one. And really anything from Platinum Games. Those guys are like the patron saints of character action games.
Dude, I literally got Metal Gear Rising in the other room because I got...
Devil May Cry, etc.
Dude, I was at Five Below this last weekend, and they had... Five Below is like an excess store where they send stuff that like doesn't sell great. Like,
is that near here?
It's generally sort of like a like funky, like chintzy little just sort of like dumb plastic garbage. It's not near here. There's one in State College, there's one in Altoona. We went to the State College one, but it's like everything is $5 or less there.
Interesting.
Which is the key point of it, and I love going there. It's the sort of place you walk into and you realize you're seeing a lot of stuff that you didn't know that you wanted. And it's really weird stuff, but the movie and video games area is fascinating because it consists of overstocks.
Overstocks?
Yeah. Stuff that didn't sell, that there was just too much of, it goes there. So there's really like interesting stuff there. There's a huge mass of it that is just like you're never going to look at it. Like you don't want any of that. It's garbage.
Yeah.
But like there's some stuff that's like a gem, right?
Yeah.
Where last time I was at the one in Altoona, they had the live action Speed Racer movie on Blu-ray. And I was just like, yes, I'm getting that. This time I went there, they had the live action Scooby-Doo movie on Blu-ray, which is hilarious. Oh, dude.
I disagree.
Okay, well, like a couple weeks ago, I was hammered at Edinburgh College with some friends, and we watched that in the middle of the night. It was really funny.
Okay, well, a lot of things are funnier when you're hammered.
Yeah, Matthew Lillard is a lot funnier when you're hammered. But this time they had a whole bunch of like Metal Gear Rising copies for PS3, and they were just like $5. And I'm like, huh,
dude, Metal Gear Rising is a really solid character action game.
Dude, I just want to see.
The soundtrack is interesting too. It's like some borderline metal type stuff.
Future metal. Dude, I was like, that was a game that I wanted to just watch. Like
you should
watch
play it all the way through.
And I will.
At least on easy if you're not that good.
Dude, I always play
game.
games on easy. I love
the challenge of those games. Like a well executed combo feels really good.
I don't want to spend more than like 2 tries on any level though. Yeah, that's how I think. Like if I fail once at a level, then I'm like, okay, now I gotta undo it and I gotta do it right. But like
easy's the way for you then.
Yeah, but
especially given some of the later boss fights.
Yeah, dude, everything about that just looks, and everything I know about the game looks just crazy though, because there's Nanomachine's son it's like a senator, like a United States senator.
Yep.
What state is he a senator of?
They don't say. They just
the
call
final
him
boss,
Senator Armstrong.
The final boss
and
is the United States senator.
Literally busts out
and
of his
he
suit
is this like
and,
doughy
like,
potato faced
out.
like white guy, and in a suit. He's a very much the image of a politician, and he just busts out of his suit and he's ripped. And his skin starts turning like pitch black, and it's full of veins, and his muscles are just bulging. And he's like, "I'm full of nanomachines."
He literally says "Nanomachine's son." Like, dude, that's where the joke comes from.
He fired a dude for being a weeboo. I saw it in the DLC.
Yeah.
It was just like,
he's like, who put
it was in his courtyard. He was in the courtyard of his building or something. It was like, who put these cherry blossoms? What is this? An anime?
Get rid of them.
Fire the guy who put this anime garbage in my courtyard.
It's like Otacon from like the early MGS games. Like, it's just like one of my Japanese
It's just
animes.
like one of my Japanese yeah.
That line, like, I did not think anything of it as a kid, and I played it recently, and I was like, ooh, oh no.
And there was the one dude whose name was like one boss who's like Johnny Tsunami or some crap.
Monsoon.
The
dude who's like,
okay, I'm gonna call him Johnny Tsunami because I love that name.
Like detachable parts, man.
He pulls his parts off. He just pulls them right off. He switches them around.
That's a bad way to put it.
But he talks about that everyone is just memes. The DNA of the soul. Everyone is a slave to memes.
As well.
And it's sort of like that. Dude, I didn't keep track of any Metal Gear Solid type stuff. I've been seeing things. Anyway, okay. What are we talking about right now? We got on a video game thing.
We kind of went on a tangent.
Oh my gosh, it's already been like 18 minutes into the show or something.
I remember you said you wanted to have words about Batman.
Yeah. Maybe we should hold that off for a little while, because that might be like...
Careful, Batman's my boy.
No, I know. I'm just thinking though that might be the...
I found out that there's a thing called Batman Day, and I was upset that I found out after the fact.
What do you do on Batman Day? How is that important?
No,
everything's got a holiday now. Like
I literally like opened up my junk email to clear it out, and yes, I do open it up just to check, because I know some people just delete all. But
yeah,
I got it. There was an email from Amazon that was like, "It's Batman Day. We're selling Batman things," and I'm like,
"What are you supposed to do for Batman Day? What is that about? What is that trying to share in the culture?
Become the hero Gotham deserves."
Everything seems to have a holiday. There's been like Bacon Day. The thing that goes around constantly, and my mom straight calls me about this, is like Talk Like a Pirate Day or something, which is
I don't understand the appeal of that.
If May, the month of May comes around again, and on the 4th of May, that anyone ever like comes up to me and says, "May the 4th be with you," I'm going.
That got old after like.
I'm going to like.
I don't know.
Early in
high
I'm not going
school.
to physically hurt that person, but I might like try to emotionally hurt that person. Because I hate that. That drives me so crazy. And it's on all of the social networks. It's on the Facebook. It's on the Tumblr when I'm there. Like every single time there's just Star Wars gifs. And I'm like, I can't handle this.
You just reminded me of a Louis C.K.
Like, good joke, dude. May the 4th.
I don't know why, but you just reminded me of a Louis C.K. bit where he's like, boys will break your things. Girls will destroy your soul.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sorry, that hit a deep note. No, I don't. No, my voice hit a deep note where I was like, yeah. No. But, like, I don't agree with that. Like,
I mean he's a comedian,
yeah.
So it's obviously hyperbole on some level.
I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like, don't set up this situation where, like, girls have emotional control. Like, that's weird gender role type stuff.
I mean,
it's the sort of thing, like, you hear where, like, oh, just don't understand women. It's like, I don't know.
Well, some of that boils
maybe because you're not
to,
communicating with people, because you're not trying to understand their perspectives.
Well, some of that boils down to the in-grouping and out-grouping we do to ourselves just on a kind of basic
dude, and the worst
level.
Dude, and the worst is like sitcom marriages.
Okay, don't get me started on sitcoms and sitcom marriages because I hate them. I'm so sick of them. They're so wrong for so many reasons. I'm tired of the idiot dad, bumbling dad, idiot husband, bumbling husband. He just wants to do right by everyone, but he just can't, or not even that. Sometimes,
and everyone just
sometimes it's just an unapologetic, selfish idiot, and the wife who somehow is super knowledgeable and swoops in to save the day, yada yada, and like way better than him, but also not. I don't know. I'm not wording it well, but it's so
I just
bad.
don't like. I just don't like.
Bad.
I just don't like a depiction of an adversarial marriage. That's really bad. You don't have good communication skills. You're like being real toxic to each other.
There's also the given that like, how do these marriages even come about and stay? Like, these are clearly dysfunctional relationships.
They're fake, and they're fake because they're written and because you can make easy jokes off of like a venomous, like spiteful banter between a married couple, and that's what people put into television. But that like generates this like really, really grim, negative sort of mold for people to try to fit their own lives into. Because when you consume that kind of media, that's the kind of thing you try to emulate and fit, even like as a grown adult.
Like, has there been any proof of that? Because I find that I don't know. I feel like a lot of people, this is purely my own opinion, and we should probably throw in a disclaimer.
We didn't say at any point during the last show. The disclaimer that we're supposed to do when we do these shows
is
that
Juniata's opinions.
Our opinions expressed on 92.3 WKVR do not represent or reflect those of the station itself or of Juniata College.
Oh man, that was
these are totally independent. I'm literally reading it off of a card right in front of me.
But I don't know. I feel like a lot of people, and this is just my opinion, my perception. I've never studied this or anything. I'm not a psych major or a sociologist or whatever. But would it not be the other way around, where these artistic mediums reflect the culture that produces them, not creates the culture?
Either way, it definitely perpetuates the culture.
But what I'm saying is, how does it perpetuate it if it's a if it's a symptom of the problem and not a cause of the problem? How does it perpetuate it? No one has been able to explain this to me. And I don't get it. And people use that logic to rail against all sorts of things they don't like for whatever reason. And I don't get the logic. Why not try to change the problem causing these bad things in media than just point blank say, I don't like this and you should change it?
Well, what I think is by changing the stuff to move in a more positive direction, that's how you correct the problem, is that you're replacing the toxic culture with a more positive culture.
But
because whatever's causing, like, and I don't know. I mean, if we want to talk about like gender dynamics in like a representative, like classical, like white American relationship, like in a sitcom, then that does like go deep down into like the totally gender divergent culture that America's in, and then like that you like are supposed to be naturally adversarial or something because men and women are so different from each other.
See, I never even saw it that way. I just saw it as like, it's just bad for men and women in the sense that like, oh, men, like, bad for women in the sense like, oh, men, you can be stupid, selfish idiots and women will save you. Once you get them married, they're stuck with you. Ha ha ha. And then bad for men in the sense like, just men are stupid. Like this notion that we're dumb.
Yeah.
And idiots.
But like, I don't think that you would only treat like the media depictions of this kind of stuff as just a symptom. It's also a cause. It's a perpetuating thing, because when you consume that kind of stuff, that I'm always about how like the fiction and like the narratives that you consume like inform your perspective of reality. So like that's a place. I mean, to focus on like what's healthy and what's not healthy to depict and what kind of culture you're trying to propagate with your media representations. If you think about that and you try to do that correctly, that is going to move the culture into a better place than it is. Because that informs people's realities in a more healthy way.
Like, you know,
memes are the DNA of the soul, dude. We are all slaves to memes.
I'm big on comic books, so I'll just go by this example because we were talking about it a little bit earlier. But like, when people address the inequalities in comic book representation, should they not be focusing more on like the structure of where these comics are coming from, rather than saying like, you company full of like straight white dude authors and artists, we need you to create these things that are completely out of your like zone of experience. Like, I don't know. Like, I just do you see kind of what I'm getting at?
Zone of experience, as in like the life experience of someone like totally outside their like ethnic or gender demographics.
Yeah. And like that's not to say you can't relate. Okay, like I'm not dividing people, but like I guess I am, but I don't know.
I think
it's not to say people aren't empathetic, that you can't relate to other people's experiences, but like I can never know what it's like to be treated as a like I know the experience of a religious minority. I know the experience of a Jew. I don't know the experience of being like a hyper I don't know the experience of being a Christian fundamentalist. You kind of get what I'm saying?
Yeah. And so for that kind of stuff,
and like on some level, maybe I could relate to it and sort of extrapolate what it might be like, but
I know what you mean. I try to like, I've been like conceptualizing writing stuff that I've been wanting to do for a while, and I focused on having like a really diverse range of like cultures and ethnicities and the characters I have, but at the same time, like I'm a white guy in America. I like born and raised in, white American guy situation, so I don't know how to properly construct like the internal culture of those characters. And that's that is a total tough thing. That's a challenge for like any of these, say, like comic authors to make. But like but I do think that if you are like a creator of narratives, that is your like responsibility to be able to like do that property yourself. Yeah, you should be able to like understand. And you do research and stuff, and you ask people about their opinions.
I'm not saying like every character you have to write has to be just like you, but it's like I feel like wouldn't it be a logical thing to sort of say like, oh well, maybe we're not getting these kinds of stories because we're not getting people who've experienced these types of situations in creative positions.
Yeah, and that goes to like the push for diversity hiring practices.
I mean, I don't want to get too far down that because I feel like at some level you do get a bit of horseshoe theory where you're so obsessed with like you can't know what another race or ethnicity or anything experiences, because I don't think that's entirely true either. And I know there are people who believe that like what I'm saying is complete bull, and that they do believe in kind of those strict divisions, and I'm not really a believer in that, but a believer of that, whatever. Yeah. But I don't know.
I think we're getting lost in the weeds here somewhere.
We kind of are. We're getting kind of lost.
How did we get here?
That's
I don't know. We just started on representation.
Well, we made something about. Oh, I made a Louis C.K. joke, and then you were talking about the gender binary.
Oh my gosh!
And then we started talking about how much we hate sitcom marriages.
Sitcoms.
And then I started saying like I don't understand why people say like a piece of media perpetuates the problem. Because like I've never seen anyone able to. Because like I understand the theoretical. Like yes, okay, I can see where the idea comes from. It just to me it doesn't seem like. You don't.
It's really not
like
something
you don't watch Superman and try and jump off a building. Like you don't try to fly.
I know.
Like you don't try to become the media you engage in. I know
what you mean.
Like everybody knows it's not real.
Exactly, but there's varying levels of it. Sitcoms especially are meant to be real, personal, like real life relationships.
Well,
and
the comedy comes out of how unreal it is, though.
Do you think?
I mean, yeah. Like.
I honestly don't know enough about sitcoms and that kind of stuff.
I'm just speaking in general terms about comedy. Like comedy comes from the discomfort of how unrealistic some of those situations are. Like think about, have you watched How I Met Your Mother?
A little bit.
Barney Stinson would have been arrested several times over.
He's really aggressive in his sexual pursuits, like uncomfortably so.
Well, not even just aggressive, just he would have been gotten for sexual assault at some point.
Yeah.
Like there is no way. And there is no way a person like that can exist in today's society, regardless of how whatever you think it is, misogynistic or whatever. Like there's no way someone like that could exist. and be as successful as he is, and have the kind of friends he does.
These are written characters. These are exaggerated personalities and like real simplified type stuff. But like, you don't, when something's set in realism and when something's like designed to seem like on a level of realism, there's a lot of stuff that I think you take in, and it's not something you see. It's not something you can really vocalize, but that is the DNA of the soul, the memes, man. It like gets in you, and it affects how you perceive the world, even in ways that you can't even tell that you're doing yourself.
I guess I don't.
That's why media analysis is like a field I'm really interested in. I really
have to look into some serious studies on it, because I don't buy it, because it brings me back to the alarmism of like early TVs, where it's like people were attributing looser morals to TV and movies, and then the whole like Columbine video game violence fiasco, Jack Thompson, like video games cause violence, et cetera, et cetera. It's the same reason. No, I'm not going to go the direction I was about to go in, but I don't buy it, really. I guess I'll just have to look up studies or something.
I understand.
I don't buy those arguments that like you perpetuate the problem by portraying things a certain way. I can understand extreme examples.
Yeah.
But I can't understand somebody looking at like a very white cast and saying like this contributes to racism in America. I don't understand that.
It is hard to say, because it comes down to the stuff that is really granular and really small, but like you take a lot of it in, and that affects you and your mind. And so I've been like doing some media studies stuff here at Juniata, and from what I've seen of that, and from the sort of stuff that it illuminates, like trends in media representation and advertising representation that is meant to affect you in a certain way, and it's really like layers deep of subconscious stuff that you don't pick up on, that you don't realize. And I understand your hesitation to like not really put a lot of clout in that, but
it opens up the Pandora's box for like authoritarian censorship, where it's like you can't show this kind of art because it encourages X undesirable behavior. So I'm so hesitant about that, because I've seen it used. I've seen it used in a religious minority context, where like you can't express your religion because it will cause bad things. And it's like, that's not okay. Like, you can't just throw a statement like that out there without substantiating it. And like, I understand the desire for more representation, because on some level, I understand the argument that you relate more to characters like you. That's basic like human survival instinct stuff. But like, I don't understand. I'm very hesitant about like, portraying violent behavior causes violent behavior. And stuff like that. Or portraying racist behavior causes racist behavior.
I understand. I understand where you're coming from.
Because there's nuance to these things, and people like to paint them with a broad brush.
Yeah.
So that's not to say people should just get carte blanche, because like there are bad ways to portray things that shouldn't happen.
So an example that I always like to refer to, and this digs into my thing about sharks. And how I think sharks ought to be better represented in the media. Just as an example, I mean, I'll put this on Tumblr. Listen up, Tumblr. I think
are you putting this one on Tumblr?
I sure will.
Because you didn't put the last one on.
Oh, sorry. Well, I will upload it. Dear Tumblr, I think there are a lot of places where media representation needs to be stronger. Very low on that list, but one that I like to talk about is sharks.
Why sharks?
Because sharks, starting with the movie Jaws way back when, have started being portrayed as like violent, like inherently violent, in that they will attack a person just for being in the water, let alone a person like making a scene looking like a seal, like invading their space, their ecosystem. But that a shark attack is a prevalent and likely threat.
It's not.
It's very much not. And you see this article this last month or so. More people have died so far in the year 2015 due to selfie-related accidents than of shark attacks.
I have not.
12 to 8. That is a real thing.
I knew I hated selfies for a reason.
Tourist died on the Taj Mahal taking a selfie, and he fell down a flight of stairs.
Good Lord.
That's sad. But the cultural perception of sharks, based on their representation of the media, is an extremely inflated sense of danger and like aggression of the sharks. And my example that I will always refer to is Sharknado, because Sharknado. If you haven't seen it, it is a movie about. It is an intentionally bad, like pseudo B movie, Z movie type thing about a tornado that becomes full of sharks because there was like a tornado in the ocean that pulled sharks up.
Could happen.
The thing is, you know that that's ridiculous. Everyone, you know that that's ridiculous. That's not going to happen.
Completely out there.
But the logic behind it is sharks are dangerous, a tornado's dangerous. Put them together, it's crazy dangerous. The thing is, this movie starts off with, and I use the most cartoonishly large air quotes for a normal shark attack. And this is to establish like the known cultural danger of sharks, that they show a shark attack. So it's to say like, this is how dangerous just sharks are, and now we're going to put a bunch of them in a tornado and it'll be more dangerous. That's the logical thing that they want you to do. But the depiction of the initial shark attack is ludicrous. It's like a cartoonishly large, like Jaws shark that somehow gets to like 3 foot deep water on a crowded beach. Which, I mean, I shouldn't have to explain that sharks don't go anywhere near that close to land. If they do, they might be dying and they'll probably just be freaking out, let alone trying to eat people. But that sharks, first off, don't get that big, are not that like aggressive that they would just attack whatever's near them, and just do not go that shallow of water.
Well,
but this shark, and this was the depiction of a shark attack with no other context, such as it's in a tornado or it shoots lasers. Just a shark attack. It went through like 6 people in 3 foot deep water, and screaming like everyone's running. There's blood full in the waves. And a lot of, really poignantly, a lot of shots of children on the beach during this scene, like freaking out children.
Huh.
Because, drive that, primal fear instinct deep down in home.
Isn't that ridiculous, though, to the point of being like this? Like, there's no way people could think that's... No?
But this... how do I
don't know.
The logical steps that the creators of Sharknado wanted you to make was that
sharks bad, tornadoes bad. Shark plus tornado super bad.
Yeah, this compared to the Sharknado was realistic, and of course it's not.
I mean,
it is not.
You said
realistic.
Earlier though that it's like intentionally a B movie. B movies are called B movies because they're like super campy, like really out there, like pretty far from reality.
So not intentionally a B movie, but intentionally a really campy, goofy movie.
So wouldn't it stand to reason then that like you shouldn't really take that as seriously
intellectually?
As you seem to
no,
be?
on a conscious level, no, you don't.
I get what you're saying, because the sharks are not as dangerous as people think. I just think you might have chosen a bad example.
That is the best example I have, because of course intellectually you know that you're probably not going to be in a shark attack like that, where it's like goofy, like 3 feet, 7 people get like just torn to bits. But it's what's it called? It's the accessibility heuristic in your brain. When you think of sharks, and like the average person in real life has never had an experience with a shark, short of like going to an aquarium and just seeing it just go, oh, yeah, what was it a tank?
Yeah.
When you think about sharks, you got a set of neurons firing in your brain. You think aquarium, Jaws, that scene from Sharknado.
I mean,
and this is a really simplified version, but when one of your, one of your brain pieces about sharks is like a normal shark just booping around doing its own business in a tank full of a bunch of other fish that it's not immediately savaging, like because they feed the shark or something, so the shark's just chilling. But your other two are of violent attacks of sharks, portrayed by the media or not. That makes you think that sharks are more dangerous than they are. And that principle applies to a lot of different types of representation. If you see across all of the movies and television shows, if you see a person of an Arab culture, especially post 9/11, easily more than 80% of those, the person is in the role of a terrorist.
Yep.
None of those are like representations in like any of the way that the profoundly vast majority of like Arabic peoples are, which is just normal people, not religious extremists, not like the percentage of like normal Arabic culture or Muslim religion type people, that like the number of them that are violent extremists is crazy different than the depiction percentage of them as violent extremists. And that is media representation in a nutshell, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I understand those arguments. Like, that makes sense to me, that you don't misrepresent a demographic and expect people to be okay with it, especially when they belong to that demographic.
Yeah.
But I just don't buy into the whole, like, a problematic portrayal contributes to the problem it's portraying, if that makes any sense.
I would like, I know what you mean. I would like to think that like anyone watching the fiction is just like, okay, so yeah, in post 9/11 America, like the depiction of the bad guy as like an Arabic militant extremist is an easy villain.
Yes.
And so you know that. So like that's not necessarily representative of anyone, but it's like a narrative device that he's that kind of person because it makes sense as a villain. That's already pretty bad.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't consider it like that. And if you're just watching TV, and I would say that even about myself and about of anybody, that on a certain level, like subconscious or just like if you're just zoning out if you're watching TV, even if you know, because like you might know a bunch of Muslim or Arabic people, and you know they're like your friends or like coworkers, and they're just like normal people, and you know that. But when you're seeing this depiction of like, when you're seeing the like ludicrously inflated majority of depictions of Arabic or Muslim peoples as extremists, your brain considers that more than it should. You know, that just like,
see, this is where you're starting to lose me a little bit. I
mean, I just believe that everyone is soaking in the media, and like that's the information and that's the perspective on groups of people.
The key word you're using here is believe. That's why I said I don't think I can say anything more on it until I've just read up on it myself, because I'm not vastly read myself. I've seen a lot of documentaries. I'm not going to be swayed until I see numbers, and that's just who I am. As like I do computer science. I work in hard numbers and discrete structures and data structures, and like if I don't see concrete evidence that something works a certain way, I'm not going to believe unsubstantiated claims. And I know that sounds kind of like me being nasty, but like that's just how I think, and it's why I'm good at what I do. But it you know, in discussions like these, sometimes I just reach a point where I can't say anything else because I've said all I can say, and beyond, like, unless I go and read up on it, I can't say anything about it.
I know exactly what you mean, and
like this is I don't know. I gotta educate myself.
The good, healthy skepticism of any concept that like you want to be able to understand it fully from like an objective intellectual viewpoint, because we're thinking about it intellectually right now.
Yeah.
From my perspective, my argument is that that's great that you want to think about it intellectually and you want to forego judgment until you have a better understanding of it. The problem is, over decades, when you're consuming media representations, your brain is not thinking about it intellectually consistently, but it is eating up that sort of information to form a like vastly distorted view.
I guess. I mean, I don't know.
That's what I say.
I don't know. I don't.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I see where you're coming from. I don't know. I really don't. Because I can see, you know, like there's classic examples of propaganda, but like, you know, that's lies being passed as truth. I don't see works of fiction being that harmful, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
I don't either.
I just, I gotta read up on it, I guess.
What I'm saying is, like, individually, nothing makes that big of an impact, but it's like it's a buildup of it over your whole life.
Portrayals like that, I think, are bad unless it's meant to be meta or parody it or something, or do something with that sort of caricature. But like, unless you're doing something with it, I wouldn't say it's a good thing. Where I'm disagreeing with you, I'm not disagreeing with you that it's a bad thing. I'm just disagreeing with you. You say it has a bigger cultural impact. I'm saying I don't know that it does, if that makes any sense.
Okay. I believe it has a huge cultural impact. That's what I'm all about.
I still don't. Like, I just need to read up on it, I guess. And you know what? If anyone listening, and I'm sure Tumblr has a lot of resources, if we're going to post this on Tumblr, or just anywhere on the internet, really, just shoot something our way, because I would love to know more. I need studies.
Wow,
I need actual studies. And I'm not talking about like an article on Gawker. Gawker's a terrible example. I hate Gawker. They're like the bottom rung of journalism ladder. Mm-hmm. Like an article from BuzzFeed or something. BuzzFeed's a terrible example too. An article. I'm not talking about an article. I'm talking about send me a study. I will actually read a scholarly paper if you send one my way.
Thank you for segueing, Static, perfectly into me telling you to send any mail that you have into the Slouch. You can address that to the Slouch or Static or Jdox.
Just don't
at Juniata College Box 726.
Yeah.
At 1700 Moore Street, Huntingdon, Pennsylvania 16652. Again, that is Box 726.
Just don't expect me to read anything super quickly because I'm kind of wrapped up with my research project right now. Weeks. I got a lot of grading I'm behind on.
I also have the Tumblr that I'll probably be posting these at. That is pleasecancelme.tumblr.com, and there's a Facebook and other stuff.
But this goes for stuff said in the last episode too, even though it hasn't been posted yet. Like, if you think I'm wrong about something, like, please don't do personal attacks or call me a horrible person or anything, but like, by all means, send me like studies or links to research or anything.
Same here.
Because like, I love to know more about these things.
Yeah.
And like,
help us improve.
I will believe something if I'm presented with evidence.
Help us improve ourselves if we are being all problematic.
That being said, though, like, I'm not just going to believe like any study sent to me, because I have read studies where like their methodology is off, or like their statistics, that like there's something up with the numbers, or like they didn't control for certain things. And to me, stuff like that can call into question the validity of the conclusion of a study. And, if I see something like that, I'm just going to say like, okay, I see the point they're making, but they didn't, control for these variables. So I'm a little unsure about it. But that's not to say I won't be swayed regardless.
I'm not expecting that we get any.
I'm not expecting it either. But
journals submitted, because as far as we know, we only have one listener. But
I would
peer reviewed only, please.
I was going to say well, you know what I mean. Like, don't expect just because you send something to me, I'm going to suddenly change everything I think. But like, I have an open mind. Like, I've changed my opinion on so many things in the past year.
Yeah, exactly. Help us learn more. Help us understand better.
Like, I am very willing to learn, but like, if I disagree with an argument, I'm gonna disagree with it, and that, I don't know.
Okay.
At this point, I'm kind of rambling and talking in circles.
So we've been on for coming up on an hour here right now. So let's take a break real quick. We're gonna leave you with just some of the music we've been listening to.
We should talk about Batman.
This is currently.
Wanted to talk about Batman.
We have something to say. I have something to say about Batman.
I'm curious.
This is a Free on Presence by the Vergents off of their album Hiko Shrine, and it is going to be cycling through probably a lot more Vergents right now as we go to break. So, thank you for listening. This is The Slouch. Satire is meant to, like, inherently, like, bring about ridicule to the people in positions of power through comedy.
Yeah.
But if you are using comedy to like
I would say
to
it's not comedy at the point where it's not funny.
If you were using comedy to say something derogative or like negative to people who are culturally like disenfranchised or not in like, you know, the position of culture or power, then that is not proper satire. That is just like exploiting the worst bits of culture.
I would say that
to promote yourself, and then like it's also very negative because it perpetuates that like disgusting culture.
Yeah, I would sort of agree. I would say the difference between comedy that's funny and racism passing itself as comedy is a degree of cleverness. If you take the stereotypes and you do something clever with them, or you
subvert them,
or I was going to say you call them into question or something.
Exactly,
that's good comedy.
If you show the fallacious nature of like the ridiculousness of a cultural stereotype,
that's good comedy.
That's good because that is an act of deconstructing that stereotype.
But just no punchline, no cleverness. That's racism.
Just
and you're trying to be funny,
a stereotype.
And the only
useless.
reason people see it as racism is because no one's laughing.
Oh my goodness. Our Audacity is cycling in on itself.
Oh boy. Well, you can just like snip that at the end, can't you?
No, it's good. My bad.
Is it still recording?
Yeah, we're still recording now. Welcome back to the Slouch.
I don't see it recording.
It's recording. It's recording real slowly because our last clip was 50 minutes long.
That's true. Okay.
We are having a lot of fun here tonight. We are discussing deep issues. What's up? This is the Slouch. I'm Jdox. You're listening to the Power 92.3 WKVR. I'm here with my man, the Static. What's up? What's good? It's good.
Yeah, we were talking about.
We've just been tearing it up on socio-political issues all night.
We were talking about like humor and racism and stuff, and we just reached a point where we were like, it's been like 10 minutes. Let's just turn the mics back on
because we're still talking about it.
Because I was talking about like a personal experience, and I don't know. Maybe I could retell it. Maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. But it was I was putting that in light of like I feel like I understand where people are coming from when they say offensive humor is bad, but I think also on some level we need to grow thicker skin. Where like the world is not going to play nice, and that's unfortunate but true. We can strive for a better world where people do play nice, but in the meantime, we can't cry foul at every little perceived thing.
So I would say exactly that, directed specifically at white people.
Okay.
I mean, it's easy to say like grow a thicker skin and stuff. But the thing is, if you're of a certain like ethnic or cultural demographic where you can have a thick skin, but like when these jokes and when these derogatory comments and these microaggressions are backed by the prevalent culture on a cultural and structural level, then they affect you in a different way than it does white people jokes. And I love white people jokes.
I don't know. I think,
do you know my favorite?
I need to like wrap my head around that a little bit because I see it, but like.
Ideally, like, everyone should be able to take that sort of criticism and
tell them the story I told you because, like, and I mentioned this in the last podcast, and I really don't want to harp on it a lot because it's not as huge a part of my identity as I'm making it sound. But like, I grew up Jewish in the South. Like, I can laugh at a good Jew joke, and that's where I say, like, a good joke that plays on stereotypes is clever or subverts it, or it's unique and it's good and it's not lazy. It's not just blunt racism trying to pass itself off for laughs.
That's a really good way to phrase it. Blunt racism playing itself off for laughs.
And
that's the worst kind of.
And I can recognize a good Jew joke. I'll laugh at a good Jew joke. I've even made some, but a bad Jew joke, that's the fastest way to make me angry. Like I was telling Jdox over here about a story a few weekends back, where I was out and I'd
no names.
No, I wasn't gonna say any names.
Okay, good.
I'd had a few drinks. I was having a okay night, sort of good time, sort of not. But there was a man with a hot dog cart for like $1 hot dogs, and he makes delicious hot dogs. I don't. It wasn't
the man being.
I don't know. He was not the man. The hot dog man was not the problem. He makes one or sells. I don't know that he makes them. He sells wonderful hot dogs that are delicious.
Okay, I don't think you can make hot dogs. You need a weird anyway.
Well, yeah, I guess you can't. They're not like sausages in that sense.
Yeah.
But But someone came up to me, someone I knew, like acquaintance, not like super friendly, but we know each other. We get along most of the time, even though I think he can be a bit of a jerk. And he was certainly being a jerk, and you'll see why. But he didn't have enough money for a hot dog, and he's like fishing around for quarters, and he's like asking me like, he's like, "Oh, you gotta have quarters." I'm like, "No, I'm broke. I don't have any money with me." He's like, "I know you have quarters." I'm like, "No, I don't have any quarters. I don't have any money on me. I'm broke." And he's like, "I know your people always have money." And I just left because I was furious. I was drunk. I knew I was going to start a fight if I stuck around. And that is what I'm talking about. That is blatant racism trying to pass itself off as a laugh. There's no cleverness there. There's no wit. There's no subversion. There's nothing.
Boy, that wasn't even a joke, though.
That's just like, that's the kind of thing where someone can say like, "Oh, I was trying to be sarcastic," and it's like, well, you sure didn't sound it.
That wasn't even a joke. That was literally the expectation of a bigot.
Like I said, that's a very extreme example. But that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. That is racism trying to pass itself off for laughs. Or discrimination or bigotry or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I've heard debates as to whether Judaism is a race or whatnot. Again, not going to touch that. But
if you're just tuning in, this is the Slouch. And we got to put the caveat in here.
These are not
any opinions of ours. Do not reflect that of the WKVR station or of Juniata College. This is, just us shooting the whatever, shooting the crap in the middle of the night, and we're discussing some issues. So, I think we ought to move away from this now. We've said a whole bunch on this topic tonight.
I think we're sort of talking in circles.
It's been good stuff. But as a real quick topical thing, before we get into the Batman.
Oh boy.
You hear about that app that they're supposedly making called People, Peeple?
I sent you that, remember?
Ah.
I was the one who sent you that article, because that sounds like a nightmare scenario.
If you haven't heard about it, the app People, Peeple, is sort of like Yelp, where you can write reviews, but you write them for people based on your interactions with them, with your relationships with them, and supposedly this is intended to be a positive only sort of app.
Except when you apply the internet to an idea like this, you get the worst in people.
And so
a lot of people rightly are coming to the conclusion that this will be used for like stalking and harassment, mostly harassment. I can see it.
It is immediately a very scary concept.
Well, here's the scariest part to me is people can review you and in reviewing you, if you're the first to review someone, I'd imagine, in reviewing you, they create a profile for you without your consent.
Yeah.
So that these reviews of you, this potential harassment of you, is now out there without your consent.
Yeah. And if that's the only representation of you on this platform,
which
it makes you look like a completely different person.
Probability-wise, it's probably not, but in the event that it is, even if it isn't, it's still bad. Because employers are almost legally obligated if they see something bad about you. I don't want to use this hypothetical because I know it's overused as a straw man for a lot of things, but say someone is falsely accused of sexual assault, and they write that all over this person's profile just as a smear campaign. They go to an employer, and an employer sees that. They are legally obligated to take steps. That's not okay.
Okay. All right.
And I don't like using that hypothetical because it's a very easy straw man. So please don't beat me up over that, because that's just the first thing that came to mind, because I read an article about some suicide in Britain over a false rape accusation. It was really sad, but that was just on the mind because I read that.
Okay. So I'm going to use the topic of this People to lead into something that I've been thinking for a while.
Is this Batman?
This is not Batman just yet.
Really
but the thing about the modern communications network culture that America is developing, where every bit of your life is more and more exposed to being archived and recorded for maybe future, people, employers maybe to see.
the notion of privacy is completely changed.
And the thing
when you ask different generations.
And the thing is, this seems like a dangerous thing, but I think, and I fully believe that the culture is going to adapt to that just fine.
I'm not as optimistic as you, but I hope so.
I love being optimistic. It keeps me happy. It keeps my, perspective of the world very comfortable. So to talk about like increasingly with like Facebook or something, you're going to have like more and more pictures of you like out at parties or doing some dumb crap or saying some dumb crap. And the thing is, everything is available. Like you don't have a whole lot of privacy in a lot of the stuff, and like potential employers or whoever might see that. But the thing is, as that stuff becomes more and more pervasive in our culture, what I'm saying is that it's going to start mattering less and less. If you have,
I agree with that. I agree with that, because
if you have a picture of you when you're like 22, like I am, and you're like doing some weird drugs or you're at a party or something, being like obnoxious or something,
yeah,
and that's on your Facebook, that's deep down in the archives of your Facebook. First off, if a potential employer even sees that, like nowadays, that might be a sort of thing where they're just deal. It'll be a big deal nowadays. But in the future, when people are used to this kind of stuff, you're gonna see that and just be like, okay, so that's in a different context. You're gonna immediately respond to that as though it's in a different context, that this person, this like potential future employee that you're thinking about hiring after you've Googled them and looked at their Facebook, this is the context of them at a party, and you know that this is not representative of them as a person necessarily, or like especially as a person in the workplace.
Yeah,
you're going to have much more benefit of the doubt for a lot of people in a lot of ways about the representation of them on certain contexts in social media. And so in the immediate sense, as we're adjusting to this new culture, I am concerned about what goes out into the internet that represents you in the internet, but I'm not saying that this is going to be a constant problem. This isn't going to deconstruct like the ability for anyone to hire somebody, because at some point everyone's going to have some like, really
nobody's perfect.
Everyone's going to have some really, like negative images of themselves at some sense on the internet, but like people are going to develop a greater sense of skepticism for that. I mean, not the skepticism that it happened, but like that it represents the person.
I would say
if you had a tweet
skepticism, they would just see it as irrelevant.
Yeah,
because they would in screening for that, in looking through those things and screening for information, they would look for red flags as an employee, and they wouldn't really care about the other stuff. And this kind of ties into an interesting concept in the world of, I guess I would call it cybersecurity, but not really, in the sense of personal privacy, information privacy, personal security, whatever. One of the best pieces of advice you can get when somebody's saying like, oh, I want to disappear online. There is no way to disappear online.
After you've appeared online.
Exactly. There is no getting rid of something that has appeared online. It will always be there in some form. But the best advice you can get is to just put out such a huge volume of false information about yourself that there's no way of discerning what is true and what isn't. And so that's generally the advice you get if you're like, oh, I want to disappear, like online. I don't want people to be able to find things about me. It's to
make a bunch of fake accounts, or
like so much conflicting information on you out there that is all equally easily accessible that it's impossible to tell what's real and what isn't.
Okay. So I understand that. That is a good logical step to say, like, you want to disappear, but you can't erase yourself. So what you need to do is oversaturate yourself in the sphere. The thing is, if I was the sort of person, if I was the potential employer that was looking at your thing, and I see if I see a bunch of different personas of you represented through a smokescreen on the internet, I would not be able to get a bead on that person, like, under any context, especially not under like a workplace context, and I would be immediately very like wary of that person.
Yes, it is very suspicious.
It's a little spooky. If you're if you have a lot of different weird stuff about you.
People who want to go like off the grid and like disappear from society.
Okay.
That's not like I want to be anonymous but still get a job. That's like a there's no going back from that.
Yeah. So it's like,
as far as my understanding goes.
So it's like, hypothetically, and I mean, recently, there's a great Tumblr called Racists Getting Fired. That's people posting like huge bigotry and racist type stuff on social media, and then people contacting their employers about like this is
explicitly racist stuff,
explicitly
or like
racist,
the kind of weird shades of gray racist stuff that I have mixed feelings about.
Explicitly racist stuff.
Okay.
And you can, I mean, Static, you can look at the blog for yourself. You can
I will
check
probably.
it out. It's a really interesting, and I don't necessarily agree with the call out culture that the internet is propagating.
I don't. But we can talk about that next time.
That is a good topic for our next episode of the Slouch.
I have a lot to say about call out culture.
But it is interesting. And when that stuff happens nowadays, if that's an immediate thing, if that's a recent thing, then I believe you have every right to like notify the authority figures in that person's life and say, these are the viewpoints and the perspectives, and these are really toxic things that that your employee is putting out there, and we want you to not on a public forum,
because like
this is how they represent themselves as people and as like employees of your business.
As much as I will hate you for it, you can believe whatever you want, but like social media, the internet, it's all public.
The thing is,
all publicly accessible.
The thing is, the concern for the lack of privacy and the archival of people's lives that is there on the internet is that you can dig deep enough and like find stuff way back that is, really condemning information. The thing is,
there's the problem with call out culture, because people do change. And you can find something from a million years ago.
And I think in the future with this kind of stuff, with the recording of people's lives, if there was like some horrible like racist garbage from like 10 years ago of a person on Twitter, then that's not going to be taken
with a grain of salt.
That's going to be taken with a pile of salt. That won't be taken as seriously because
salt mines.
But like, so back in middle school, I was an awful person. And, most white boys in middle school are.
I think most people in middle school are terrible. There's like a sudden influx of hormones.
You're trying to understand the culture and like get into being an adult.
You're like, don't tell me what to do, Mom, but you're also kids, so you have no idea what anything even is.
So I said some. Thankfully, I don't. At least I can't find anything super bad about things that I said way back when. But hypothetically, like in the future, at least me, like I would as a potential employer see something and be like, okay, what's the context of this in that person's life? And how does that relate to the views and the, persona that they project in their, present life? And like, if there was something really super bad, I would confront that person about it and say like, okay, what is this about? Like, how do you feel looking back on this? And if they are like, oh God, that was me in 7th grade, I was a total piece of garbage, I would just be like, I understand that you've changed a certain amount.
I get what you're saying. I think you'd have to be a bit more clever than that, though. I think you're underestimating the average person's intelligence. I think if somebody's in an interview and they ask you about something from 7 years ago, you're going to know that your answer is really going to matter. And
they're put on the spot.
People are just going to say what they think you want to hear.
You're right. They're going to get defensive, and that's a good point. I will consider that.
They're going to say what they think you want to hear instead of what they really think.
Okay.
Because that's like classic interview process, and I want to talk about Batman.
That's good. Thank you. I'm going to put that in my... Yes. Okay. So that's all
I'm sorry to cut this short, but Batman.
Okay. So my argument is, and we've been talking each over a lot, but you're going to need to just let me go here for a second. Batman is a bad person.
Okay.
Batman fundamentally does not exert justice onto the world in which he, purports to be a force of justice for.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a disclaimer, I know that Batman is a fictional character.
Okay.
I know that he's not a real person. He's not really affecting the real world that we live in. At least not explicitly.
Okay.
So, I'm going to get into this. When it comes to supervillains like Two-Face or like the Clayface. He's got two face-based villains. Let's talk. No. Joker. When it comes to the Joker, when it comes to Mr. Freeze, when it comes to the literally cartoonish supervillains that like only want to like rule the world or destroy the world or enslave the world or whatever, that's of course outrageous. And of course nobody believes that. But the thing is, when Batman tackles petty crime,
ooh, okay, I see where you're going with this.
It exhibits very bad stuff. If there's a mugging that Batman
Stop.
Batman stops and he beats up the dude for. That is, first off, an act of extreme aggression, but that is not okay.
I'm following you here. Just keep going.
Bruce Wayne, with all of his money and his power and his influence, and you always hear like Batman does this stuff and then Bruce Wayne like builds an orphanage or some crap.
Uh-huh.
But you never see Bruce Wayne addressing the You never see Bruce Wayne addressing the socioeconomic issues that cause crime.
You're losing me a little bit.
Bruce Wayne, okay. If there's like a drug dealer,
yeah,
Bruce Wayne beats him up and puts him in jail. That does not address the reasons why that individual became a drug dealer, why that person maybe became addicted to drugs themselves or had to resort to selling drugs. In a town like Gotham with apparently extreme poverty and extreme crime rates, Batman does not address the causes of that. And he does not he addresses the symptoms, not the disease.
Okay.
And the disease being of poverty, of like cultural disillusionment, of all kinds of stuff.
I can see that.
Batman, Bruce Wayne, let's not refer to him as Batman. Bruce Wayne takes the persona of Batman to exert physical aggression on the victims of socioeconomic problems in the city of Gotham. Bruce Wayne does not use his money and his influence to fix them at the source and to move progressively forward in preventing crime and poverty and disillusionment in his community.
You can't see it, but I'm grinning ear to ear now.
He's really smiling at me. This is a big smiley boy over here. Okay. So I watched. They've been making a lot of DC animated movies, and there was this good one that's about
direct to video. Yeah. Which one?
They're all pretty good.
Which one?
This was the one where Batman has his like weird adopted son.
Damian Wayne.
Not
adopted son. It's like some weird.
Oh, it's an actual son.
Yeah. Like Ra's al Ghul had his daughter get pregnant with Bruce Wayne's son.
Yeah. I don't think we're allowed to say the B word for that kind of son. I'm not sure.
Whatever.
Err on the side of caution.
But the thing is,
for
that poster,
the character development for this new Robin is that he wants to murder people, and Batman's got to be like, you can't murder people.
But there's someone else who's like, you can murder people.
And there was, and he was an owl. And this scene in particular was that there was a petty crime, a purse grabbing, a mugging in an alley in a dark, deep, impoverished corner of Gotham City. And, Damian Wayne shows up and he's got to think like, oh, am I going to murder this dude? Am I going to listen to my dad and not murder him? The thing is, the petty criminal, the mugger, and this is like an hour into this film, was the first black person in that entire film, was the petty criminal. That's representation. Okay, so what I'm getting to is...
Yeah, back on topic.
Batman, I know Batman's a fictional character. I know he doesn't affect the real world in a lot of ways, but if we want to talk about representation in a sense that is not specifically about character representation, Batman is extremely representative and perpetuative of the inherent revenge culture of our justice system.
Okay, I'm not going to argue about the perpetuative because we already talked about that. Are you I'm sorry, are you done? I don't think you're done.
People in America.
You're not done.
I'm not done. People in America who are addicted to drugs and are in possession of drugs, if they are arrested for that, if they are charged with that, they become criminals for the possession of drugs, even if they're not selling drugs. That is, why culturally do we see drug addicts as villains instead of sympathetic victims of drug culture, of poverty, of anything else that goes, of mental illness, of anything else that goes into that? Why do we criminalize? Why do we
see drug addicts as victims?
That's an example.
Criminals? Is that what you said? I'm sorry, I spaced out for a second.
It's okay. So to send someone to prison, right? That doesn't fix anything. And I'm not articulating this super well, so please don't use my arguments very well.
Jump in whenever.
If there was a person who is simply a drug addict, that's not
criminal.
Was found in possession of drugs, that is criminal, apparently, and that person deserves to be physically punished by having their liberty stripped away and being confined to a certain area, a very, relatively dangerous sort of environment. Why culturally do we punish people for that kind of stuff? If someone is owning drugs? For owning drugs. If somebody is growing up in an environment that is so ridden with poverty and disillusionment, where they think the only opportunity, the only possible future, the only possible way to escape that sort of thing that they have is to resort to crime, is to enter a gang, is to,
you're saying
do something illegal. They're victims of the system that put them in that position, that they are then brutally punished for by being incarcerated and then by having their futures essentially stripped away for them because they are now felons, and they will not have the same job opportunities as non-felons, and they will not be able to progress socially. They will not have the social mobility that will allow them to escape the cyclical nature of poverty and crime.
Not to mention, I think I could be wrong because I'm not remembering too well.
I could also, because I don't know what I'm talking about.
As far as I recall, I think prison can actually be pretty psychologically damaging.
It can be incredibly damaging.
But
people exit
summarize
prison with post-traumatic stress disorder because of their experiences in that.
I think you've sort of reached your conclusion. Yes?
I have not yet.
No?
It is we have...
Well, you said the revenge justice thing already.
Yes. America's sense of justice is a revenge culture.
Absolutely.
For anything.
Absolutely.
It is not about, helping people escape the circumstances through which that their only conclusion was to resort to crime or resort to violence or hurt other people. It is not about elevating people out of that. It is about punishing them for the circumstances that they themselves have become victims of.
I agree with you 100% on that.
And there are some prisons and stuff that have educational programs and job training programs, and that's all fine and whatever. But you still have natural discrimination based on criminal records and being past felons.
Yes.
And that culturally is just an extremely perpetuative cycle of just keeping these people down, and all kinds of stuff, and it drives me crazy for it. And especially that America has the most brutal prison culture. Every other developed world does not have the amount of incarceration that Americans do.
Yeah. So in summary, your argument is Batman is a bad person.
Batman represents the revenge culture of America's perception of what justice is, which is to physically and psychologically and socially and economically debilitate people who have been victims of certain things that have influenced them, that their lives ended up in this certain way.
I was just going to say, basically what you're saying is Batman is a bad person because rather than use his vast amounts of money, which is Deus Ex Machina big time, to address the structural issues creating the average petty criminals, not like Joker and Mr. Freeze and whatnot. The average petty criminals, not addressing these issues, that makes him a bad person. I would agree with you on that, actually. I think the reason, though, that he's portrayed like that is just basically it's very...
Again, it goes back to representation because it's an easy hero-villain setup.
I was going to say it's not a very marketable story.
Exactly.
If Batman was just a philanthropist, or if Bruce Wayne was just a philanthropist with a tragic backstory.
I would love to see a structural superhero that invests heavily for progressive ventures that will improve his community and his culture.
To make a good story.
Oh, totally.
Really
no one would. No one would buy a political and economic drama about a philanthropist.
Throw this out there and then debate you on your own terms, because this is me just completely discrediting your argument.
Come at me.
It's it's marketable story that Batman is like this. It's not a fun story per se, in the sense that if Batman didn't exist and Bruce Wayne just threw his money at all the problems and to fix them in logical ways that make sense, that's not a very exciting story. Certainly not a superhero story. Now, with that out of the way, I do think you're right. We have a very revenge-focused culture in terms of how we treat, breaking the law here. And I can't argue that, because that to me, it's almost it's basically quantifiable.
The problem, specifically with Batman, the problem about representation is that children are growing up with this, and even adults like us are growing up with this sort of stuff, and that informs our perception of what justice is. It does.
And now you're losing me again.
Sorry.
Because it's a man in a bat suit beating people up.
But
like
Batman. But if we perceive Batman as the paragon of fictional justice, but that is what our perception of justice is.
He's a flawed character. Everybody, like, characters are inherently flawed.
But he's the hero.
There are so many Batman stories where they straight up compare him to the villains. They say he and the Joker are two sides of the
Batman's
same coin.
a good. But when Batman beats
they say Batman is insane, and he is insane. He dresses up in a bat suit to fight people.
And that's always something that's referenced, but that's never like literally addressed where Batman like actually decides to stop because he realizes this is crazy.
It is.
It's always mentioned, but it's never like taken fully seriously. The point is, when Batman beats up like a drug dealer or something, the audience of the comics or the audience of the movies is never thinking, okay, well, what's the drug dealer's story? Like, what could he have like?
Okay, well, I'm just gonna fall back on the like storytelling argument there. I think it's just it's not what the writers want to focus on. They want to focus on the grandiose, like, surrealist villains like Joker and Mr. Freeze.
But what I'm saying is that sort of stuff,
with the detailed backstory that everybody knows. Because the reason, you know, like, here's one thing. Like, there's an episode of Batman the Animated Series that people love because it basically defined the canon for Mr. Freeze's backstory for a long time, which was that his wife was terminally ill, and he was a cryogenic scientist.
I love Mr. Freeze. He's a great sympathetic villain.
Okay, so you know the episode I'm talking about.
I know everything about Mr. Freeze. I love him.
Frozen Heart?
I don't know.
Or something? But you know the backstory. He was a scientist. Wife had a terminal illness. Employers wouldn't let him do anything about it, so he tried to do something about it. It went horribly wrong, and he's just bent out of shape over his wife because she is frozen, and he wants to fix her, and he's messed up now. And he blames Batman and rich people.
And he has to like steal. He has to like rob banks to fund his experiments to cure his wife. I would say
that on some level, if you're going to use Batman as a cultural stand-in for the American justice system, you could say that these villains are stand-ins for people with similar problems. You know, Mr. Freeze. Look at it without the fantastical elements. It's a man in a desperate situation with a wife who is terminally ill, who has the means available to him to try and fix the problem, to try and cure her. But the rich people who own everything about his life will not let him. And he snaps.
If you boil it down, Mr. Freeze is the story of a man who resorts to crime to afford health care.
Exactly. That is exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And you're getting lost in the minutia, and I think there has to be a degree of suspensive disbelief in both the sense that you write off these petty criminals because they're not on the same level as Batman. They're not on the same scale. And everybody knows these petty criminals, despite the horrors of the prison system, you know, they're not going to be mutilated. They're not going to be mangled. They're going to wake up in prison.
Yeah.
They're going to be alive, basically. Whereas these villains, they are broken people. And they are caricatures of the problem that they're representing in the same way that Batman, in the way you're arguing it, is a caricature of the system he is a part of. Do you kind of see what I'm getting at?
Yeah. And so that
way you still get that narrative of fixing problems with the easy to process and easy to market story.
Yeah. So
yes.
I want to draw a direct comparison between the supervillain characters of Batman, the outrageous types, to Sharknado, and then the petty criminals to just the sharks. When Batman fights the Riddler or something, you know that that's not like, you know that that's crazy fantasy. But in between Batman fighting the Riddler, when he's beating up like muggers or something, that's the reality that grounds you in the reality so that you can have the juxtaposed fantasy of him fighting supervillains. But that is that representation of the reality is toxic, is what I'm saying. So with Mr. Freeze, you have a lot of empathy for the man because you understand his story and you understand his emotional struggle and where he's coming from and the circumstances that led him to resort to crime and stuff. And there was a really interesting like parallel world where Like
Mr. Freeze was a good guy.
Exactly, where Mr. Freeze became.
I know what you're talking about.
Batman became the villain, and Mr. Freeze was sort of just like, so I have this certain amount of power with my ice stuff, and there's a lot of bad stuff going on in Gotham, so I ought to be the good guy now, and Mr. Freeze becomes the good guy, and that represents like a sort of potential that any villain can be a hero.
Well,
so what I say. Wait, I gotta get through
Yeah.
This is my conclusion. Dig? You have a lot of empathy for Mr. Freeze because you understand his story. And your relationship, the audience's relationship to him is one based on empathy and understanding. However, you get none of that for the concept of the petty criminals and for like the normal crime. And that relates to the revenge paradigm for justice in America is that we inherently don't have empathy and we don't try to understand these people and where they're coming from and what led them to be in this place. Instead, you just vilify them. And it promotes this narrative that there is something about these people that is inherently evil. And so for the Joker, that's the Joker. Okay. But the thing is, if there's like a criminal, if like there's like a drug dealer or like a drug addict or anything, they're just the villain.
How would you say they're vilified?
They're vilified by simply being convicted and imprisoned, and then having a criminal record, and then being further vilified in the culture that they can't have job opportunities.
In the comics, how would you say they're vilified?
By not giving them the context and the empathy and the understanding. And of course they can't in the comics because you're not going to get so granular as to explain every drug dealer that Batman beats up. But the thing
I see what you're saying. It's not practical.
But the thing is, it promotes in the culture, in American culture, a sense that if there's a criminal, that there is something that is just naturally evil about that person, and that is something that cannot be helped, that cannot be changed, that is just a bad person, while ignoring any amount of context or like history or any amount of empathy for who that person was, or like it totally dehumanizes somebody. Vilifying is dehumanization inherently, and it like this like is something. This lack of empathy is what I relate to all kinds of discrimination and stuff. If you want to refer to like predominantly like Black American communities in ghettos or something, like you refer to like you say something is ghetto in like a derogatory sense, like, and you conflate that with Black American communities and stuff, but like that is built on a narrative sense that there is something about these people that inherently trends them to crime and poverty and like really poor socioeconomic situations. It's not something about the people. It's something about the culture and the structure and everything. But it's putting that on them, that you're saying this is a problem with like who they are as people and not about the culture or the structure or the economics or whatever. And it's like, I agree. It's extreme victim blaming in the highest sense. And that is my key point that I'm trying to get to about why Batman represents the bad stuff, is because when anyone has a struggle, when anyone has a problem in American culture, because of our rugged individualist culture, it's because of them. It is because of their personality and just inherently, like deep down in their soul, who they are as people, without considering any amount of socioeconomic issues or circumstances or environment that affect that sort of person. It's just inherently that they are in some way a bad person, that they are inherently flawed. And that is a lack of empathy. And that is what leads people to discrimination. And that is my entire whole shtick that I'm going on right now. I'm going crazy standing here.
Yes, you are.
Okay. It's done. It's out. It's good.
Okay.
I'm out of it.
All I'm going to say is, in the context of comics, I think you're getting too hung up on the details. And I'm not going to argue about the perpetuating the problem or cultural zeitgeist or whatever it is, because we already talked about that. You know where I stand on it, or where I don't stand, to be precise, in that I don't. But I think you're right. I think we do not consider the larger forces that act on individuals. And I think, and this is me putting my tinfoil hat on a little bit, I think, yes, that's rugged American individualism, but I think there's moneyed interest in that too. I think there's
moneyed interest.
I think classism is the biggest culprit here.
Oh, always.
I think the rich, capital R P rich, they have a vested interest in making it look like criminals are inherently bad and that it is not the fault of the system because they benefit from the system.
Wow.
They profit off of the system.
Let's put a huge pin in the prison industrial complex for next week's show.
I was going to say, changing gears a little bit, because we should write some of this down to talk about tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Next time.
Week.
Let's talk about things that we like. Because, like, I don't know. We've been on a very negative 2 hours.
It got super duper political.
Really heavy. Yeah, this is a really heavy episode.
So if you were listening last week, and we know one person who was, we got real heavy, and then we immediately started talking about like goofy nerd type stuff. And for this episode this week, it's been pretty consistently heavy. And as we're approaching 1 o'clock, like I want to say, like we got to start wrapping it up.
I mean, we don't have to, but we can.
I think I got class tomorrow. Like I
don't have anything till 11.
Okay, well, that's your deal. But we've covered a lot of good stuff tonight, and it has been a way more serious edition of the Slouch than last week. But this is only a second episode, and we're always talk about like big political type stuff because we're very opinionated,
really,
people.
Really going.
Oh, could you tell from the last 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And like I don't know, we're willing to agree to disagree with each other, so like it works.
And once again, we're open to all sorts of ideas. If you'd like to share with us, if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, once again, and this is a real quick plug, and then I'll get back to what you were saying. Write us in at the Slouch or Jdox or Static or just the Slouch. I'm just gonna say just like right into the Slouch at Juniata College Box 726. I get my words confused.
Yeah, unless you want to call me a horrible person, you're welcome to call me out because I know my opinions are not the popular kind. I'm a very cynical person.
Yeah. We have a good dynamic though of the optimism and the cynicism. Juniata bought it.
Juniata bought nothing.
Juniata College Box 726 at 1700 Moore Street, Huntingdon, Pennsylvania 16652. Please address that to the Slouch. You can also message us at please cancel me, all one word, .tumblr.com, or there's please cancel me on Facebook. And that is that's like my personal show, but that's the banner I'm putting all of my other shows under for this. Because I don't get messages through those things anyway, so
through like the Facebook and the Tumblr?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, that's a shame.
I mean, I'm just not popular.
I mean, honestly, and I'm wary to say this because I think we're opening ourselves up to a lot of bad things if we do that. But if you like tag on Tumblr, we could get a lot of feedback.
Yeah, we could tag.
But Tumblr, I'm a bit wary, and if we do tag, and this is very horrible for them to hear me say this, I'm a bit wary just because, there is that reactionary element to Tumblr, even though it's not. I used Tumblr very briefly. It's not like the overwhelming majority, but it is there.
Yeah,
it has enough traction to be.
And considered. it can get super aggressive.
But anyway, on to things we like.
Wait. Did you have something else to say prior to that?
No, I mean I pretty much
going
just
on a big thing.
I just pretty much agreed with your whole Batman spiel, with the exception of like, I think you're honestly speaking the truth about some real problems, except for the fact that I don't think a comic book really has that much impact on it. But
I believe that the media like that reflects and perpetuates it.
We discussed that. I believe it reflects it. I just don't think it perpetuates it. And we discussed that earlier, like way, way earlier. And I don't know. Let's talk about stuff we like. Like I want to talk about like stuff like Rick and Morty and Steven Universe.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Did you watch the finale?
All right. A hard gear shift right now from big socio-political and economic issues
topical.
To topical nerd garbage. Rick and Morty, the season finale. Yes, I did watch it.
Oh yeah.
What do you want me to say?
No, I mean I was just curious. Like it was good. It
real
was really
heartstring
good.
Jamming. Like, real cliffhanger messing you up.
I love the casual nihilism.
Dude.
And then the sudden but not really that sudden character development with Rick of an actual honest to goodness self-sacrifice.
Really? Okay, so we won't. Okay, no spoilers. Okay, big spoilers here for Rick and Morty.
What I just said is like huge spoiler.
I mean, okay, so anti-spoiler, Rick doesn't like kill himself or something.
No.
Okay, spoiler, if you haven't seen the Rick and Morty season finale, just stop the thing now and that'll be chill. Okay. So we're good.
Yeah.
That's our disclaimer.
Okay. I love how they kind of made fun of the fan base at the end with
that drove me crazy.
I love that they brought him back.
So it ends on that hard cliffhanger where the family goes back to Earth, and like Earth is now full of alien tourism.
And Jerry is assigned a job.
And Jerry is like consistently the biggest jerk of this entire show.
Yeah, it's so funny how Jerry's character went from like, that kind of sitcom stereotype of like, the dumb idiot dad to like a legitimately selfish, like awful person.
Yeah. And the thing is, in the universe of Rick and Morty, he's like the one normal guy, right?
And he's the worst.
Yeah, he's the one dude that wants like a normal life and just wants his family to be safe and like live a normal life without any like interdimensional space garbage. But the thing is, in the universe of Rick and Morty, he represents a threat to the very thing we love about Rick and Morty, which is the fantasy of the whatchamacallit. So he's the normal dude that you're designed to hate. And I love that, honestly. I think that's great characterization.
He's not... He wasn't originally designed to be hated.
No, but he became that. That was the development.
The normal guy. And then he became hated when they started going into how just shallow and selfish he is.
But he's shallow and selfish in a way that interferes with the Rick and Morty aesthetic about the space stuff, because he doesn't want any space stuff.
Well, it's not just that. It's his selfishness is in the sense that he wants that sort of sitcom life. He wants that kind of Leave It to Beaver? That super classic example. He wants that.
He wants a functional family.
And no, he doesn't want a functional family. He wants the status. He wants the image of a functional family. Rick and Morty, like the family is dysfunctionally functional.
It's one of
They were functioning on that planet, and Jerry's the one who's like obsessed with how he doesn't have a job, obsessed with the fact that they're not on Earth.
Yeah, it's a good point. He is consistently like the dude rocking the boat the hardest in the way that like promotes normal human crap.
Overwhelmingly normal in a negative way.
That it disrupts the flow.
The thing is with like Morty is overwhelmingly normal in a positive way, where he just rolls with it and he's like, you know what? Fine.
Yeah.
Except, he's not always good. And there's been the Purge episode was a pretty good example of how he's not always good.
And what you're saying is excellent, because the character development has been like that. Rick is a sort of person that like introduces all kinds of these crazy chaotic elements, and the character progression has been that everyone gets more and more normalized to it, that they can roll with it better. Or it became that like even Summer can like start to handle this stuff.
Yeah.
But Jerry has been like the one just like immovable object opposed. There. Yeah.
Well, I would say in the beginning he was more okay with it. Like in Lawnmower Dog, he's like, can you make the dog smarter? Which ended terribly.
Yeah.
But
maybe if you want to talk about the broad canon, that's what really soured him to it. Was that experience? So. I don't know. I'm not talking to say whatever.
He gets increasingly more obsessed with being normal. The more the family becomes more okay with not being normal.
Yeah.
And the height of that is when he loses his job in the M. Night Shyamalan's episode.
Really? It was that long ago?
He lost his job after that one because he pitched Hungry for Apples, remember?
Because I remember in the last couple episodes his unemployment.
And they were like, that's stupid, you're fired. And he pitched it because in the simulation it was like, yes, okay. Remember? Man!
I got to go back and watch that one. But I remember the last couple episodes, his unemployment became like literally a character point for him. But I don't remember it prior to that. But if it traces back all the way back to the M. Night Shyamalan episode.
In the hospital. Literally, he wants everyone to like him, so he says he's going to do something he never wanted to do in the first place.
Oh, the
I'm
alien
not
penis
say it
transplant.
Okay, you did. But yeah,
I'll say it.
He said he was going to do it.
What's up, middle of the night, Huntingdon, Pennsylvania? Alien penis transplant.
He let them talk him into it because he wants everyone to like him, even though he didn't want to do it in the first place. And so he tried to use his wife as a way to weasel out of it, like, oh, my wife needs my penis, but she caught on to him and said, no, Jerry, I think if you're uncomfortable with something, you should just say it. And he's like, but that would be rude of me, Beth.
Oh, my goodness.
You remember that? That whole exchange? And then he tries to like weasel his way out of doing the transplant on stage by assassinating the character of this philanthropist. And they're like, hey, he's trying to weasel his way out. And they're like, oh, he's a terrible person. And then they're like, oh, because of all this hate for Jerry and outpouring of support for the philanthropist, we can afford a replacement heart. And then he literally tries to hold up the surgeon at gunpoint, and he's like, take my penis, transplant it. I want people to think I'm a good person. I just want people to like me. I just want to do the right thing. And it just blows up in his face.
What a just a weird dude. That guy went back and forth all kinds of ways in that episode. So real talk, though, they had a lot of good replacement penises. They were like crazy, where his wife was like looking at the penis catalog. She was like, oh, wow. Oh my god! Hey Jerry, wait, look at this one right here. I mean,
yeah. And I think that was just comedy.
And okay, but in that position, hypothetically, and I'm not Jerry, thank God, but I would totally get a really good prosthetic alien penis.
I would ask a lot more questions because,
Okay, first off, number one, it's got to be wired to my nervous system for starters.
That's the key point. Most important thing. And two, would I be rendered infertile? Would you be taking everything? Well, no, it's a serious question. Would I still be able to reproduce? And maybe not as serious a question for Jerry, considering he has 2 kids, but I'm only 21.
I'm the sort of, so presumably with this alien technology, they would have that ability. I mean, you can get,
considering they patched him up from a million bullet holes.
On American medical technology, you can free sperm and have a vasectomy and still be able to reproduce.
That's true. Well, you can also reverse a vasectomy, I think.
That's true. Sometimes. Maybe I don't know enough about vasectomies, honestly. But I saw no specific downsides for that except for a certain amount of sentimentality to your own original penis. Which, honestly, I don't have that amount of sentimentality.
Yeah.
There's definitely memories.
I can understand why people would, but, I don't know. If it's the functional equivalent in every way, I don't
even more, supposedly.
I'm just saying, if I'm getting something that does everything the other one does, in terms of just everything, I don't see a huge deal. I mean, it's a prosthetic. It could be replaced. If something goes wrong.
Interchangeable. Can you imagine?
That's a little weird.
No, I would you have a whole array, dude. You got all kinds of different stuff.
Rick and Morty, and I love how they made fun of the fan base at the end where he beats up the pizza guy. He's like, oh, did you see that finale? Did you see that cliffhanger? And the pizza guy's like, get off me. And he throws him on the ground and he's rolling around in the pizza. He's like, ooh, how will they get out of this one? Tune back in 5 years, 1.5 years maybe.
I was literally freaking out about that.
It's not going to be 1.5 years. They've already been renewed.
Yeah, I know. But what a perfectly well written extra sting to the narrative, because it's a season finale that ends on a really sad cliffhanger where nothing's been the status quo to say hasn't been and this is the status quo.
Kind of been a running
this
theme.
Is the status quo in terms of crazy space adventure status quo. But it hasn't been ruined, but it's been severely interrupted with, spoilers, the fact that Rick went to intergalactic jail and is separated from the family now. It's disrupted the dynamic of what the show is supposed to be inherently. But it leaves you on that, and that's the cliffhanger. You're wondering how he's going to get out of it. And instead of even barely hinting on that in the post credits, it's Mr. Poopy Butthole, who he comes out and he's just like, hey, ooh-wee, fan base, did you see that whole thing?
Get out of this one?
Oh, I'm gonna mock you about it right now. And he was rolling around on the floor in pizza. He was rolling in pizza on the floor, saying oh, you'll have to tune into the next season. It's maybe gonna be 1.5 years from now, or maybe longer. Who knows? It's animation.
Yeah.
And that was just the biggest, like, most
middle finger to the audience.
It was the most hilariously brutal strike to the audience because, and I saw that and I'm just like, okay, they made this scene. How much money did they spend to animate
that whole
pizza
scene
sticking to the face of Mr. Poopy Butthole as he mocks the audience?
And that is a valid question because it's such good animation. If it was bad animation, I'd say that's a dumb question.
And it was baffling to me, like how absolutely dedicated they were to really just sticking it to us.
Yeah.
And that was so good because it made me hate them so much, but that's exactly
in like a lovingly hateful.
Oh, that's totally the intention. And they're, if nothing else, they're excellent about the meta level storytelling.
I was going to say, what I really liked about season 2, season 1 was great comedy, really tight, and each episode was its own thing, except for, a couple here and there. Like the evil Morty and the Cronenberg universe and stuff like that.
Oh, really? I thought that was some of the better, like, high concept stuff.
No. I'm saying it was all self-contained except for those.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
self-contained, and that's a good way to
Council of Ricks. And this season has had a much more continuous flow to it.
Yeah.
Where and there's like moments of like actual existential despair with Rick, like where there's a scene where he actually is like, you're actually left to think, like, did he actually just try to commit suicide, or did he know he wasn't going to kill himself?
Which one was that then?
The Hive Mind episode. After Unity breaks up with him, he's like, he just says hi to the family, and he's like not responding, sort of, and he goes into the garage, pulls out some creature, kills it, or unfreezes it, kills it, and then puts another crystal in the machine, puts his head in the crosshairs, and then literally passes out.
Oh yeah.
Before it fires. And then it just it's a time lapse of him being there in the garage for days, and nobody even comes in to check on him.
That is
and
pretty...
like this season was much heavier with that sort of thing, or with Morty and Fart, where Morty kills all these people to feel like, just he's saving something, he's preventing an assassination from happening, and it's like what he's doing is on more and more morally shaky ground, and then Fart's like, and his name is actually Fart, is like,
voiced by Jermaine Clement, especially.
Yes, that
my
made me
goodness,
so happy. And
I lost it.
It gets to the point where Fart's like, oh yeah, we see all carbon-based life as a disease, and we're gonna come back and wipe all of you out. And Morty's literally like, he kills him, and he doesn't tell Rick because he knows that what he's just done invalidates everything they have done that day, and he is literally killed hundreds for no reason because Crumbopulous Michael was gonna kill Fart anyway.
Wait, who's Crumbopulous Michael again?
Oh boy, here I go killing again.
Oh, the assassin! What a really like well written, extremely likable space assassin Crumbopulous Michael was.
I kill people. It's what I do. It's what I'm good at. I like it.
He seemed like a nice guy. So that episode really exemplified like the difference between Morty's like. I want to describe it. No, I want to describe it as like micro morality.
Versus
where like
macro morality,
which is versus Rick's macro morality, where Rick like for in his cryptic like really destructive way, he sees the much bigger picture. No, like not even the bigger picture, but like the bigger.
Yeah.
On
like
the
in
bigger
the last
picture,
episode, it comes to light he was a terrorist, but he calls himself a freedom fighter, and you can kind of see that at the end, where it's like they take like all these samples from the Smith family, and they like scan them, and they're like, you will be assigned a job. And of course Jerry's like, oh boy, I got a job, Beth, and the rest of them are actually a little horrified.
And that's
like, what Rick was fighting against.
And there's like an ideological thing there, but like the Fart episode was Morty like really confronting that his sense of micro morality didn't work in the macro moral like universe that Rick lives in.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was like extremely wrong then and had to, a lot of damage to himself, he had to adopt the macro morality
in that
of
instance.
Rick's.
Yeah, Rick I would say is I would not attribute any morality to Rick because he's just completely.
It's honest. It's hard to say.
No, he's self-serving, completely self-serving. You know, he fought for his own freedom. He says it's for all of them. He cares about his family, but you know, he looks out for number one.
He's not really selfless.
Like, think back. He made a whole micro universe to be a car battery. You remember that episode?
Yeah, that was a really good one. But
like,
that's
not something a moral person would do.
And Morty is then shows to be like the sort of voice of reason. Again, the micro morality of like, and Rick, this is slavery, yeah, Rick. You can't do this.
That is one thing about the show I really like. It plays really fast and loose with like morals and the roles each character plays.
Yeah.
Where like you said moral, like Morty and his morality, but it's interesting because some of Rick has rubbed off on him. You know, in the Hive Mind episode, he looks at Summer, he's like, "Oh, first race war, Summer."
Oh yeah. It's
like almost smug.
Yeah, because his exposure to Rick and Rick's world, that's been like developing his character.
Yeah.
And especially in the fart episode, really like
big time
changed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to see a very early episode and then immediately a much more recent episode and like try to compare how Morty reacts to stuff and like what that character is. Yeah, oh, dude, I love it. Oh man, but
I think it's also because they knew they were going to get more seasons as well.
Yeah.
So they started making
the first season was more
loose continuity. The first season was kind of a proof of concept.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you have a pilot episode, but you also sort of have a pilot season, and you don't know how well the whole season is going to hit. And given how well it's been received, and that they're cleared for who knows how many more seasons, that totally frees the authors up to delve into like longer continuities and longer character development, which I adore. I love that stuff. Oh boy. Oh jeez.
Yeah.
Oh
I love that show so much.
It's really good.
On another show, have you? I know you watched Steven Universe. Are you caught up?
The most recent one was in which they had a thunderstorm with Peridot.
You saw that? Okay,
I did see that one.
I'm really loving that show.
Dude, she explained so much plot in like 2 minutes.
The only thing I don't like about that show is how short the episodes are. And I know like the creators have said like we're going to stick with the 11 minutes because it works for us. But it's like and it speaks volumes of the writing for that show, but it's like every episode leaves me wanting so much more.
I know.
And I'm like, I cannot wait for the next one. Even so,
when it actually airs on Cartoon Network, is that like a 2 11-minute episodes into one full half-hour show?
Yes.
Okay.
That's how they do things like that.
Okay.
Or they might pair it with another new episode that is also 11 minutes from another show. I don't really know because I don't have cable. I don't watch it when it airs.
Yeah, me neither.
Which is bad for the creaters, I know, but I love it so much.
I know. The Rick and Morty season finale was actually the only live television I've watched in a while.
Yeah. If I wasn't broke, I'd throw my money at them.
I should at least stream it from like the websites that they do, like the Cartoon Network website.
I love shows like Steven Universe though, because whereas Rick and Morty is blatantly like an adult, mature show, like Steven Universe is like it's so good. It's made
child targeted.
Everyone. It's made for everyone. It's got the stuff for kids, and it's got that complex stuff that adults can analyze.
Yeah,
like Pearl's relationship with Rose.
Oh my god, it's
so Steven's relationship with his mother.
It's totally child focused and child marketed, but with like a really great, deep emotional maturity to it.
It's got
in a lot of ways.
Just enough emotional maturity to it that it's really. And it's sparing enough with those moments.
And there will be like one line in an episode that just cuts so deep. It's incredible.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like
right off the top of my head.
And spoilers for the last week's episode.
Catch up.
But like at the end, the Crystal Gems had said, Steven, make sure, like watch Peridot. And clearly he didn't because they went to the kindergarten. And Peridot was out and about with Steven. And they're like, Steven, I thought I told you, or Garnet says, Steven, I thought I told you to watch Peridot. And Peridot steps right in front of Steven, arm in front of him. It's like very quickly, very aggressively says he followed orders. He did what he was told.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what does that say about the culture of where Peridot comes from, of Homeworld? That she was that worried about Steven when it was implied that he did not follow orders.
I didn't think about that. She came to his defense in a really big way.
Steven is something of an equal. Because they're both young. They both know a lot about a couple things, but not much about a lot of things.
Yeah.
In the greater picture.
There's so much great stuff. Like the way Peridot reacted when she was deprived of her cognitive crutch about her screens, that she refers to. She doesn't know anything without my screens. That was really interesting.
Millennial gem.
Okay, you can make that joke about millennials, but I think it's deeper than just saying kids in their screens.
That was a topical joke.
But what was I gonna say though? It was about
I don't know anything about
the nature of Peridot as not a villain but as an adversary, where she is and you've seen just in 2 episodes she's being understood further and exactly the kind of stuff I like to talk about. You have there's the villain character, but you try to understand them and try to empathize with them, and you understand that you're not inherently opposition, and that if it happened with Lapis Lazuli, where the crystal gems were
Lapis Lazuli is still kind of a neutral element.
Lapis Lazuli was always a neutral element. The crystal gems wanted to destroy her because they perceived her as a threat, and she would have been and was for a time just immediately a villain, where she was attacking them with those water clones. But then Steven, and this is exactly what I love about Steven the most, is that he is a consistently, yes, he's the bridge. He's a consistently empathetic and caring character that wants to understand people instead of fight them. And that is exactly what I'm all about, because he did that with Lapis. He understood her and he helped Lapis, and now they're in the process of understanding and helping Peridot.
I was going to say, Lapis is a neutral character, though. She's very much pro-Steven, but she's sort of iffy with the crystal gems, because there's that whole bit, and I really hope they go into some of Lapis's backstory as well, because you knew I was in there, but you didn't do anything. And again, with the writing of this show, if they had imprisoned her, she probably would have said something along the lines of, "You put me there when I didn't do anything," or something like that. But she didn't say that. She said, "You knew I was there, and you left me there."
Yeah, and exactly how she was with her damaged gem that was then put into an item that gained magical properties as a result. That reflected so hard on the entire series prior to that, where they are fighting gem monsters. That these gems are corrupted or damaged, or just
Centipedal come back.
Exactly, and there's been so much fan art of Centipedal supposedly as the Jade gem. I put air quotes on that, where she's
I don't engage with the fan base much.
There's just been good fan art on Tumblr of what the gem of the true form gem of Centipedal actually is, and that opens up all of the gems that they've collected and bubbled in this containment room are
to be healed.
Real. They're all real people.
Well, it's been foreshadowed.
And so what I totally think is going to happen is that it's going to get down to they'll stop the cluster or whatever that is, but Homeworld is going to step in a big way.
Well,
and it's going to turn, and I think it's going to turn into another war setup, but they're going to need to amass a larger group of gems to support them than just the couple that they have, the 3 crystal gems, Steven, Peridot, maybe Lapis, who knows.
Maybe
but
Jasper.
The thing is, if Jasper gets a redemption arc, I will lose it.
I was going to say, I love Jasper's design, but we know nothing about Jasper as a character.
Yeah, she's definitely immediately way more aggressive and violent, and frankly actually functionally evil. But
But so was Peridot at first.
But the fan art actually has been interesting, reflecting that, where there was a lot of fan art of Jasper already being accommodated into the social group of the crystal gems, where there's fan art of every single gem featured thus far. Peridot, Lapis, Jasper, the core crystal gems, every gem that you've seen so far has been fan arted and fan comicked in a context where they are all friends and like living together,
Well,
and just like, and they're, you know, not enemies, which is fantastically reflective of like what I've just earlier talked about as Steven's mindset about the whole thing, that like there's about a non-adversarial paradigm to these people. But
yeah,
what I was saying was, I think Homeworld's going to step in a big way. It's going to get into be like a larger conflict, and it's going to rely on Steven's healing ability and the gems that they've collected, and it's going to introduce a lot of gems.
I was just gonna say, I think we might see a situation where, and they foreshadowed this so much with, you know, Rose has tried to heal these gems. That's Steven's mother.
Yes.
Has tried to heal these gems, but she couldn't, so we bubble them. And it's already been established Steven can do things that no other gem can do, that Rose couldn't do. He can fuse with other humans.
It's a very new development.
Heal humans
in Gem World,
and he heals through spit and not tears like his mother.
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
It is funny. That the bubbled gems, because they go to almost out of their way to show just the sheer volume of bubbled gems.
There's tons.
Whenever they're in that room, I feel like we're gonna get to a point where Steven heals those gems and they all kind of rally against whatever, you know, the climactic conflict at the end.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, and I can't wait for that. Okay, have you seen the extended theme?
Yes.
And you know that the one bit, what was the lines like? The odds are against us. It won't be easy, but we're not gonna do it alone. And it shows the adversarial gems: Jasper, Peridot, Lapis, and Yellow Diamond.
Doing a
back to us.
Dio pose, by the way.
So Dio.
You thought it was Yellow Diamond, but it was me, Dio.
Ha, but it was I, Dio.
Diomund.
Oh.
Yellow Diomund.
Wow, that's a deep cut. I did not
deep
see
cut
that.
Diamond.
Oh, God. This is turning into gem puns real quick. Diomond. Wow, dude. But like, dude, I like look back and I see that like extended thing and that one bit where it just like goes silent for a second, and
menacing.
Yellow Diamond just slowly turns and gives the side eye right to the viewer, and I'm just like, oh, I get chills. It's so spooky. Who is she? What like is going on? Like, when are they going to introduce Yellow Diamond? It's going to be crazy.
Interesting thing about Steven Universe is all the references to anime.
Oh my God.
Very much so.
We get even started on this.
I talked with a friend. Well, we can talk about this another time.
I mean, let's do a couple of them now.
Yeah, but interesting thing to me about Steven Universe is it's like the first example of like, from what I've seen, of like a magical boy, where it takes all the tropes of a magical girl anime minus the costume, but you get the magical companion pet. You know, you get the advisors who know everything about magic. You get the inexperienced youngster with magic. It's just the genders are flipped.
Yeah. And that's especially really cool since, like, Steven as, like, a very, like, emotionally open and empathetic character, like, exhibits very, like, for being, like, it's a play on the magical girl, but he's, like, he's a young boy.
Absolutely.
But the character of Steven exhibits very little, like, of the hyper masculinity in any way. He's just like there's a and I'm totally the sort of dude to talk about like that, you know, gender specific roles and like behaviors are totally arbitrary, but like it's been described that Steven acts in a lot of like inherently feminine ways, and that's really cool for his character.
Well, there was the episode where he put on a dress and performed.
And like done like not for a joke at all.
Okay, if we're gonna talk
it was a
about
little bit of just like,
ideas,
oh, I can't believe
that's one thing I really love about Steven Universe is it doesn't beat you over the head with anything. It's just there.
Yeah.
And that to me is the end goal of progressivism, is that these things just are.
Is to put what would be controversial things out there, but not
at face value.
Exactly, but not frame what would be controversial stuff in a don't frame it in a controversial way. Don't put it in that context. And put it in there as a normal thing in the narrative context, and it normalizes it.
I was going to say, it's also an interesting experiment in just like what happens when you don't make a big fuss over certain things. And it turns out people really be on board with it if you don't make a huge fuss over like something. And that's where I kind of think, and I'm just going to mention this and we don't have to go into a tangent because I still want to talk about Steven Universe.
Okay.
But that's where
we'll talk about more anime references.
Yeah, that's where I think, like the comics industry does it wrong, where they make a huge public spectacle of like Thor's a woman now, Captain America's black. Like none of those are inherently bad. But by making a big fuss about them, it's now a big deal.
It's putting a spotlight on it,
Right. Well, I think people will accept more things if you don't highlight it.
We want to talk about. I'm just gonna like make a small jab real quick about that media representation. If you do it subtly, if you do it under the radar, it like pervades in the subconscious and it normalizes the stuff, and that is the low level subconscious media representation type stuff I'm talking about. Okay. The hole was made for Amethyst. It's me-sized.
Amagara Fault.
Oh my gosh.
Fault. That killed me. I saw that. I was like, oh.
If you haven't.
Well, hold on. I'm not generally one to go and say, like, we need content warnings, but, like, this is some serious body horror stuff we're about to direct you towards. Like, the mystery of Amagara Fault. Amigara.
It's the enigma of Amagara Fault.
The enigma? I'm sorry.
Remember that.
It's like a classic body horror manga.
So they do a lot of, like, interesting references and stuff. Like across Steven Universe, that's like meant to be picked up by like people like us. If some child watching that managed to like pick up somehow that was a reference to something, and then Google the reference to the enigma of Amigara Fault, or if the kid was like on Tumblr or something, and someone was just like, oh my god, I can't believe they referenced the enigma of Amigara Fault in this thing, and he's like, oh, I didn't get this joke. I want to research what this joke was about.
Ooh, bad.
That's scary because
bad.
If you have access,
that's serious nightmare fuel.
Look up the enigma of Amigara Fault. It is this classic horror manga. This Japanese comic about horror that is a like deeply existentially terrifying story. And I don't know the name of the creator.
If you Google it's me-sized, the comparison has been made so many times that you will actually, just by going through Google results, eventually get to the
It's actually really easy to like find that now because of this reference. Anyway, but I can't believe that was such a deep cut. I can't believe that they referenced that. It was crazy. Yeah, deep cut. Yeah, I don't know exactly the meaning of the phrase deep cut, but I sure do use it a lot. What else have they referenced really well?
I honestly think Yellow Diamond's pose was a Dio.
Oh, totally. Dio I think it was totally Dio.
JoJo reference.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Look that one up too. That's a good thing.
There's definitely references to Magical Girl stuff.
Oh yeah.
Can't think off the top of my head.
There was a bit where Steven was like setting up figurines or something on a thing, and it had like one that was obviously like Cloud from Final Fantasy.
Oh, the guys.
But then it had one that was like literally a reference to bad Sonic the Hedgehog fan art, like critically bad. You know that like it was Sanic, Sanic. I'm gonna look it up real quick because
I know what Sanic is.
Sanic.
I just don't remember that being in an episode.
Oh my goodness! Wait. No, it wasn't Sanic. It was Gotta Go Fast. Wait, come on.
Fast guy.
This was it.
Oh,
sorry,
the Gotta Go Fast joke. I love that.
This one.
Yeah, no, I know
that was in Steven Universe.
Was it?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
That because
you were saying it was, or that something was a reference to.
Okay, so actually, looking at it now, to be honest, there's bad Sonic fan art out there. This is not what I would define as like bad DeviantArt Sonic fan art. This is a child's drawing of Sonic the Hedgehog. Joke, yeah. That is literally, it was just drawn by a child like no older than like 6 years old or something. Oh, but this was it. This is literally a screen grab. He was like lining up these dudes.
Oh wow, yeah, you're right.
And there's this one right here.
That's a Moogle. That's clearly a reference to Pikachu and a Moogle.
Yeah, it's a fusion of Pikachu and a Moogle. And then I don't know what this guy is, but then that is Gotta Go Fast.
Yeah, that's really
I don't know.
Funny.
This makes for great radio, doesn't it?
Also,
where we're describing an image on the internet.
Has a progression of consoles that he owns. At one point, he owns like an N64 or a Super Nintendo. And then in one episode, he's clearly got a GameCube.
Wait, they went from Super Nintendo to GameCube? How old is Steven?
No, I think it was a Nintendo 64.
Yeah, I know. I have picked up on that, though.
Well,
it's really cool.
interesting you mention that because it's sort of an alternate history, which I'm a real sucker for. And I hope they go into in the show, but I doubt they will. Because think about it. There was a gem war that happened thousands of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
We've now seen maps of... We've seen globes. We've seen globes of the world of Steven Universe. It's not the same globe as ours. But there are some things that are the same.
But it is clearly meant to be the same because they reference...
Florida doesn't exist.
Oh, I need to look up that Earth picture where Florida doesn't exist.
Florida doesn't exist.
But like it is a total alternate history universe of Earth because like but there is stuff there because they talk about like I know I am too because especially cuz like okay, you're from Texas, but I'm a Pennsylvania boy. And Pennsylvania doesn't get like a lot of representation as far as being a state in media. But when they had an episode called The Keystone Motel, where there was that little bit where they were just like, oh, at the very beginning where they're like, oh, we're going to go do a road trip out to the Keystone State. And they're like, the state called Keystone? And he's like, yeah, the Keystone State. And like they were just like skirting around like actually Pennsylvania.
Oh, really? Is Pennsylvania called the Keystone State?
Yeah, it is. That's what the name of it is.
Oh. I just think it's interesting because it's like they have the same geography, but clearly they have a different, similar geography, but clearly things have been affected.
I mean, it was clearly meant to be like Pennsylvania.
Things have clearly been affected. And it's interesting because when you think about the giant laser on the hand, like the hand spaceship, I was thinking about it. It kind of looks like Beach City is a giant crater. And if you think about Rose's shield, that would make sense.
Oh, that would be interesting.
And that would also make sense why there's so many gem shards and that the temple's at the center of this crater.
Yeah, when they warp
Rose used her shield to protect the crater and the crystal gems, but no one else survived.
When they warp from place to place in the early part of the series, like defeating like just, basic gem monsters, they go like to all sorts of different environments, but like I had the impression initially that those were different planets or something, or like around the world or around the galaxy.
But they're not.
But they were all on Earth.
Yeah.
Supposedly, because like they'd never left Earth.
Like, clearly, gems have had a huge impact.
Gems have a network of teleporters just around places on Earth, and then like they have the off-world warp pad
that's broken. Yes.
That's broken, and that was a whole thing. That was really interesting though, and like a lot of people have done like research to like. Supposedly where it takes place that like it's actually they've like determined that it's like on the like the Delaware coast somewhere, Beach City. Yeah.
Interesting.
But they did have that like sort of gag image of like the gems, because they're like thousands of years old. They were like with the crossing the Delaware, the painting where like Garnet punched a shark and George Washington was there like,
oh yeah, I saw that.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
That was like That was a good. That is a good. We are immortal joke to say like we were involved in like this historical event that got immortalized in a painting.
TV for 1,000 years.
Yeah, dude.
That's another interesting thing. Actually, is
immortal jokes are great.
How immortal is Steven? Because he seems to age normally, but his perception of himself also seems to affect his physical state in like too many birthdays.
Yeah.
He turns into an old man and almost dies, but then he becomes a kid again. And Cat Fingers, same sort of thing. He becomes a cat monster, a la Akira. It's a reference to Akira.
Oh, you're right. That's so good. That was such an Akira reference. Because Steven like learned how to shapeshift by like because of his gem powers, but like he
how immortal is Steven?
It's that's such a mystery because he's like the first human gem,
the first of what
half human, half gem, and it's also, like really curious.
See him start fusing with the other gems.
Oh my gosh! Every time they introduce a new fusion, I am just like, it's so cool.
One of my friends said they might have foreshadowed a Steven Peridot fusion being the first because Peridot on Steven's shoulders.
Oh, I don't know about that. That seems like a little bit of a stretch to me.
They also kind of rationalized it as like, oh, Peridot's like a gem version of Connie. I'm like, maybe, I don't know. It'd be cool, but I kind of want to see like Garnet and Steven, just because Garnet's like my favorite.
Yeah, Garnet's my favorite too, dude. Dude, like total favorite though, sardonyx. The garnet pearl fusion. I
did not like sardonyx.
No, I think she just had like a lovely personality.
A little obnoxious.
Well, yeah, and being like excessively
really
show womany. Opal is pretty chill.
Opal's design
very
is
stoic.
So cool.
Yeah.
I love the tunic.
Oh, and that was the first fusion.
Tunic.
So when that showed up, that was crazy.
The, like, I don't know, like female Brady sideburn type thing. I don't know what it's called, but you know what I'm talking about? The long locks by the ears.
Yeah.
And
I don't know either.
I don't know.
But what's always like one of my favorite bits about any fusion is how their weapons combine.
Yes.
Like the whip and the spear create a bow. Like the whip and the fists create like a flail, and then the spear and the fists create a hammer. And that's always so cool.
What's Peridot's weapon?
That's been an interesting idea, actually, and I saw that in a fan-created comic.
Oh, really?
I wish I could attribute that to a source. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it was a sort of thing where, like this fictitious idea. I mean, it's all fictitious, but like this fan idea that Peridot had been totally, accepted into the group, and then she was learning then from Pearl, who's trying to teach her about being a gem, because actually Peridot, who essentially like lived her whole life and didn't know anything other than the limb extenders and those, accommodations with that. She didn't actually know how to use her own gem and how to generate her own weapon, and that those weird like glasses things.
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
It said that those weird glasses things were like causing that she couldn't generate a weapon out of the gem in her forehead because it was blocking it. And then it was like also an emotional hurdle about like opening yourself up to that and trying to like be more introspective and like know more about yourself and like less focused on the screens and the information that you're collecting.
Yeah.
And that was a like a little fan comic about developing Peridot's character. So I would like to see how that turns out canonically.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I'm just interested to see more of Peridot. I really want to see more of Malachite and Lapis and Jasper. I am so in love with Jasper's design. I don't know why, because we know nothing about her as a character other than that, she's from Homeworld. She likes to fight.
She's pretty mean.
That's it, and she respects strength.
Yeah.
Well, she's not mean. She just likes to fight. She's very much. Like, if you put it in D&D terms, she's very much a stereotypical warrior class. Like,
yeah,
all like strength stat, not much in the charisma stat.
There's a really like blatant design parallel between her and Amethyst, where they have the big fluffy like white hair.
They both do the sonic spin dash.
They both do the sonic spin dash, where they roll up and turn into like a ball and speed at someone, and that's made me think like, okay, so if Jasper's a warrior class, Amethyst is and I really want like
they did say she was overcooked. I wonder what that means.
That's so curious to me. What the actual caste system of the gems is like, because like so quartz.
Well, just what Homeworld society is like, because I do know what you're talking about. There is a theory that there's a caste system.
Yeah, and that's what I'm really hoping they dig into in the canon.
Interesting. I don't know how. Like we are going on tidbits.
Oh. And they're so great about the creators of this have been so great about building the universe in a way that makes you so curious, because they reveal just enough that like makes you think that something like this could be a thing, and so then like you want to learn like what the real explanation for it is, and then you get these fan communities supposing a lot of explanations. It's really interesting to consume. Like. So Rose Quartz and like Yellow Diamond would be like command classes or something. Like they're like naturally the leaders. What was it?
Okay.
Peridot or Jasper or something refers to Pearl as like a defective
Jasper
Pearl.
Does, yeah, a defective Pearl.
Like,
well, and Pearl also says I'm just a Pearl.
And that's been like, yeah, and that both of those things have been really revealing to like what Pearl or like what the Pearl is in the structure of Gem Society.
It's interesting as well because Peridot says to Steven, like, you're some kind of quartz, right?
Yeah. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's interesting. Because I know there's a multiple pearls theory. I don't know if I buy that necessarily, in the sense that like pearls are like a mass-produced servant class. But like,
that's what it's been
think about
supposed.
it. But there are different kinds of pearls, and there are different kinds of quartzes, and there's different kinds of various gemstones.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm curious to see what the breakdown is and how much they stick to like the actual rocks.
Yeah. I'm just hoping that the series like goes on long enough that they can like really explain this sort of stuff.
It's like I don't even know how to put words to it. It's just like I need more. And like I want it all
the
at
canon
once. Like,
explanation.
I want to binge.
That's what I'm saying. Is that like I've told you before, I just want one episode like, where they sit down and like let's hash out universe building and the lore for like 15 minutes just straight where we explain everything.
It's not even that. It's just there's so much going on in this show that it's just the denial of closure on so many levels at this point.
Oh my god. And they've been so great about that.
I am almost overwhelmed by how much I need this information. I want to watch 1 million episodes of this show right now so I can get all the story and know, and please.
Dude, and the what they do for endings for any episode is fantastic. Because sometimes like it ends on a joke, like
toilet episode. Like I need to use that for what?
Like it ends on a joke and then it's like a whamp whamp and then boop and then we're done. But like sometimes it just cuts. It just hits super hard. Where there was like an episode where the extreme emotional tension was going on between Pearl and Garnet, and then like they were watching the Sad Fruits cartoon or something, and Steven just like, I wish Crying Breakfast Friends, and Steven was just like, I wish we got closure like they you always get at the end of a cartoon, and Amethyst was just like, yep, and then it just ends. Oh, that was so smart. Brutal. Or something where it's like dramatic and scary, where like I think it was like when Peridot first showed up or something, and then she left, and Garnet just like smashed the galaxy warp, just destroyed it, and she was just like, I don't remember what she said, but it was really serious. The music was really intense, and it just ended there. Like. It did not tone down for the ending, and it was really, really well handled, and I love that kind of stuff. But the whole show is really good about trickling out information.
They're almost too good at it.
Like at a really teasing, like really enticing pace that you just want to. It makes you definitely want to watch more. That you want to like keep like getting what tiny little tidbits of insight you can about this universe.
The Steven universe.
The Steven universe. Oh my god. Okay. It's like 1:45. I think
we should probably just call it.
Any of our audience that we actually had, pretty engaged and involved with our socio-political discussion earlier has probably been totally alienated by our deep discussion on cartoons. I think this will, however, go over much better when I upload it on Tumblr. Because we really got into some good analysis of Rick and Morty and Steven Universe there, so that will definitely, be good.
Yeah, well, you never posted the first episode on Tumblr.
No, I still have. I mean, I posted it on YouTube. I just have to. Did I tag you in it on Facebook?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just post that on Tumblr. Heck, I'll post that right now. But
yeah,
it's been.
I hope random Tumblr people like us.
I mean,
because I don't want to like. I know I'm a cynical person, and I know I have unpopular opinions, but like I don't want people like really hating me.
And I know that like in a lot of ways I try to be more Tumblr viewpoint. I guess just based on my experience.
I guess.
I mean, compared to you.
That's true. I kind of exist in like a weird bubble.
Yeah, but like I hope similarly that anyone feel like they can approach us and help us understand more. And if you have something you want to share your experience or anything with us, like we'd love to learn more about that.
Like we can talk about a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. Like, hit us up with some topics.
I want to talk more about nerd stuff next time, at least at the start.
Yeah.
Because I like what we're doing now, which is less just straight up debate and more kind of nerd talk combined with some touching on like deeper topics.
Yeah. And we should do more of that. And
that is,
we should maybe try to keep it a little bit lighter in the future.
Yeah, I think we got a little too intense.
Yeah, at least when we hit those big discussions, not keep them going that long. Just like break it up a little bit more.
We need to break it up.
Yeah, have a better rhythm.
Or even just putting them in the context of this nerdy stuff, it works well.
Yeah.
Like talking about representation and progressivism in the context of Steven Universe. Like, and I still don't buy the whole, representation feeds back into the culture in a big way. But it's still, like, it's an easy way to talk about it.
Yeah. When you have that, like, touchstone for it, when, like, you have that reference point to say, like, this represents, like this certain, like, broader, vaguer idea is represented, like, in such a way by, like, this certain amount of media that, like, we can directly reference.
And we can also gush over how much we like
we can
dislike.
Gush like crazy.
Said piece of media.
I've got a lot to say about Adventure Time also.
I'm not a big Adventure Time person.
Okay. Well,
Well, I am and I'm not.
Okay. So
I like the really dark lore. I don't like that it took them so long to get to it and how far they space it out. It's like the inverse Steven Universe problems.
Okay.
But we can talk about that later.
So we have a couple things we want to start discussing next time. We wanted to put a pin in the I'll remember. We wanted to put a pin in the prison industrial complex. I think.
You said yeah.
I want to talk about that.
I don't want to get too bogged down in it though. Because that is a big topic.
I mean, I'll go on a whole spiel, but I think it is a really big topic, and like we've been saying, I don't know enough about it that I want to like really say anything too hard. But like,
is computers. Like everything I say about anything else is almost purely conjecture from what I've seen and from my experience.
I'm just exactly so whatever we talk about, like it's based on my experience and my education and understanding of like what these issues are.
Or lack of education.
Exactly. On my part too. Okay, but so we're going to sign off right now because for God's sake, we can't keep talking anymore. Like my mouth is super dry. I'm dehydrated.
I'm going to eat a whole pizza.
We've been here for like
almost 3 hours.
Almost 3 hours.
How nuts is that?
So for our last show,
second time slot.
I think we should maybe make this twice a week.
If you want to, I'm down. I can do Fridays.
And we got to at least have like a harder cutoff time for it because we went double time last week, and I thought
we've gone triple time now.
Yeah, we're not slowing down apparently.
No, we're picking up.
Oh my goodness.
This is becoming like honestly, it's like a podcast almost.
We really could start podcasting.
That would be fun.
I should. I have MP3s of all of these discussions. Like I could post it as a podcast.
You want to? You want to start doing that?
I mean, I got to learn how to publish it.
Okay.
But
maybe we should look into that. But that's maybe not a discussion to have on air.
There's other. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're gonna. You're right. We gotta get off the air.
Let's wrap it up.
We gotta get off the air. Thank you so much if you're still listening. And honestly, I can't imagine anyone really is right now. Thank you anyway for listening to the Power 92.3 WKVR. This has been The Slouch with Jdox, that's me, and Static, that's him.
Me.
All opinions do not reflect WKVR or Juniata. If you want to send us any mail in, if you want to engage in the conversation, if you want to call us out on something we're being problematic about, or if you want to share your experiences or do whatever.
I wouldn't say call out, but just like point
out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Call out culture. I don't like it.
Well, and we'll get into that next time. Send us mail in at The Slouch. Address it to The Slouch. Send it to Juniata College Box 726. And that is at 1700 Moore Street, Huntingdon, Pennsylvania, 16652. And
or send it in through Jdox's Tumblr and Facebook.
Please cancel me, all one word, no hyphens or nothing, .tumblr.com.
Honestly, Please Cancel Me could be a brand at this point.
It very well. I'm literally franchising it because I've got like tomorrow night I'm actually starting another show called Now Available on CD and cassette, which is going to be also at 11 o'clock, which is not going to be like a discussion thing as much as it is just going to be me playing Vaporwave and joking about 90s crap probably. And that's the first episode tomorrow night at 11, and we're going to see how that goes. That very well might not even be a talking bit. That might not be anything to upload to YouTube or anything. It might just be me playing music just for music's sake. Yeah. So I'm not uploading music to YouTube because I'll, get my pantsuit off. All right.
But anyway,
thank you so much for listening.
For real this time.
Okay.
For actual.
Thank you very much, everybody. Good. Bye. We're dumb.